What's up, everybody? Hardest part of the ring is back.
Back? I thought you were just here.
Well, I'm, your boy, hardest part of the ring is like herpes, I never get off your genitalia. Anyways, bonus time for the apron bump. A special 3-hour extravaganza. And I know you're reading this and you're like, what the fuck? 3 hours? Yeah, it's 3 hours. What do you want from me, man? I don't know. Yes. A special time here. This was all presented and organized by Kenny from the Kenny for Your Thoughts podcast. Find him on Twitter and Instagram at AKFYT Wrestling. If you already haven't, you probably have, because I have had him as a past guest on this podcast. You might remember him from the King of the Ring 2001 episode or the SummerSlam 94 episode. Great guest. An okay person. But no, it was a really good time. It was a roundtable discussion. It was Kenny and his co-host Brandon, of course, and myself, Matt Ritter. Okay, Matt Ritter is his name. I called him Riddler like a bunch of times on the SummerSlam 01 episode that I had him on. Apparently it's Ritter, not Riddler, but I'm going to keep calling him Riddler. That's a fucking cooler name. So, I'm all over the place here. So we have myself, Kenny from A Kenny for Your Thoughts, Matt Ritter from the Smackin It Raw podcast, and we also have Joey from the Angle podcast. You might remember my Invasion 2001 episode where it sounded like we were going through a wind tunnel. But no, really great guys. I had a lot of fun doing this roundtable. Year in review is what it was. It was basically looking at the year of 2020, and god damn it, there's a lot to talk about in terms of wrestling in 2020, hence why this is so long. And it's amazing because, this is like a 3-hour long podcast. It felt like 10 minutes, first of all. It was so much fun. And it's amazing because I feel like we barely scratched the surface as far as what happened in 2020, because between COVID, between how every company handled it, between all the storylines that happened. I mean, 2020 had a lot of great moments, COVID aside, right? So we weren't even able to get to everything. I feel like we could have gone 8 hours if we wanted to, but we did cover a lot. We did cover a lot of ground, and I enjoyed it, and I know you will too. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I'll go fuck myself if you don't. But yes, special bonus episode. We'll get right into it. It's a marathon, everybody. If you're mowing the lawn, you're cleaning the kitchen, you're circumcising your dog, anything that takes a while, just throw this on in the background and have a ball. Also, you can find it on YouTube at Kenny's YouTube channel, and I'll put all that info in the description below, as well as the info for the other guys involved. So check it out on YouTube, the video version. You get to see this handsome mug. A Kenny for Your Thoughts on YouTube. You'll find it there. So let's get to it. Wrestling's 2020 year in review with Matt Ritter from the Smackin It Raw podcast, Joey from the Angle podcast, myself, and Kenny from A Kenny for Your Thoughts podcast.
What is up, guys? So this is a very special episode of A Kenny for Your Thoughts, episode 107, I think it is, Brandon. What am I asking? You don't know how to count. But we have a lot of special guests on here who have their own respective awesome podcasts. So we'll go down the line right now. We'll start off with one, Matt Ritter. Matt.
Why is he first?
Because he's on top. He likes to be on top.
That's pretty
Power top as opposed to power bottom.
Power bear.
What's up? Thanks for having me. Hi, Brandon. It's nice to actually talk to you.
Hey, it's good to see you too. I get to see you on the screen. I'm actually a sub bottom.
Thanks. I was gonna ask, but thank you. You're already on top of that.
Oh
That's me.
my God. Well, Matt, you want to plug your shit, brother?
We are the Smackin' and Raw podcast. We're the #1 wrestling podcast, currently not on Pornhub because of the them taking away the user-created content. But we're gonna get verified and we're gonna get back on there, and then we'll be back to #1 on Pornhub. We talk a lot of shit, a lot of porn, a lot of wrestling, mix them together, have a good time. So expect me to talk a lot about dick and enjoy my luscious lips as we talk tonight.
Yes, Matt Ritter has the best lips in the business, just so everybody knows.
How do you compete with that?
You don't. In fact, that's why they got kicked off of Pornhub the first time.
Got it.
It was the lips.
His face is too
Right.
fuckable.
Well, I'm just glad Brandon's here because when you guys got on, you got Joey, you got Kyle, you got Kenny here, and I'm like, man, they say you take an 8 and you put them by 6s, they look like a 10. Well, I'm like a fucking 2 right now next to 3 10s. Like, this is not good for me. But Brandon brought me up to a 4, so I appreciate it.
First of all, I am not a 10, like a 9.9. I'm being modest. But
It's fair.
Joey Cardi, go ahead.
My last? Why my last? Fuck you, Kenny.
I was saving the best for last, but that's okay.
No, Joey Carney from the Angle Podcast. Like everybody else here, we just enjoy talking about wrestling. I say we, but it's me. I always say we. I don't know why I do that. It's only me. Wrestling, talking about wrestling, interviews, everything in that nature, all wrestling stuff, the Angle Podcast. That's pretty much it.
Brandon.
Yes. I don't actually have a show officially, but I will say Happy New Year's to everyone. I do enjoy a little Pornhub.
Pet peeve.
I
Happy New Year.
Wrestling too. So yeah, it's all here. We got all the elements. The alcohol, I'm loving it.
Do you have alcohol, Brandon?
No, I got some water.
There's no alcohol here. What are you talking about?
He's just drunk on
we don't
life.
have alcohol.
Brandon's
This is
got
just
that giant
delicious
invisible
Terramana.
penis that he'll be chugging from randomly.
Figured
And
out
Mr. Kyle Bird, last but not least.
Yes, otherwise known as the hardest part of the ring. Have a podcast called The Apron Bump. We do retro reviews of all kinds of wrestling from the mid-90s up to current day, Attitude Era, WCW, Progress, ROH, all that kind of stuff. So apronbump.com to see all my episodes. And I talk a lot about penis too because, hardest part of the ring, erections. It's an easy transition. So
That's why we get along so well.
I'm not on Pornhub,
Brandon.
though, so
Are we the only podcast that doesn't talk about penis?
You know what?
I guarantee you've talked about
yeah,
penis.
we
I've heard it.
probably, yeah. I think we did. Yeah, remember? Because I was trying to say that, 3 is all you need. And then our moderator said that I was a virgin for saying that. So
Listen, Brandon, I do a podcast by myself, and I've talked about penis. So you guys have definitely done it.
yeah, we've definitely done it. Yeah.
Okay,
All
fair
right.
enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. All right.
So
here we go.
I know we're here to talk about wrestling, but my full plan coming on here was to just flirt with Kyle the entire time, make Kenny super jealous. That's
glad
all
we're on
I
the
really
same
wanted to do.
page. I wish we were next. Are we next to each other? Hold on.
That's why I tried to look extra pretty. I tried to
Wait, so what
I
the
tried
hell?
to wear my Matt Jackson dangly earring for you all to look really pretty and be the prettiest one on the podcast, but it didn't work out because Brandon showed up looking all Rico Suave like that.
Oh, man. I had on a green shirt when we got on. And then I was like, oh, crap. This is
He
going to work.
constantly shows up in green clothing, by the way, to be on a green screen, just for the record.
Who has green shirts? I've never seen
Yeah.
anybody wear a green shirt before. I guess Brandon's the only one. He bought them
I
all.
think
Brandon,
so,
yeah.
yeah. I like green. I don't know why people don't
Was it
like
like a bright ass green or was it like a dark green?
It's, well, if I can grab it. If you
That makes
Steve
a
from
difference.
Blue's Clues shit.
All right, how about, can you see that? How's that?
That's a fucking green screen.
Yeah.
That's not green.
Yeah, you're holding up
Teal.
a piece of canvas. I
That's
swear.
teal at best.
It's I think, you know what it is? I think it's the light. I think it's the lighting. It's green, I promise.
I think
Yeah.
it's colorblind.
Brandon only shops the week after St. Patty's Day for clothes.
Everybody kept pinching me
Fair enough.
at work. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this anymore.
He's like, I'm never gonna have this happen
Yeah,
again.
never again.
Never again.
Nope.
He's prepared for everything
But
except safe sex. Now, guys, we are here to talk about this year in professional wrestling. That's why I wanted to get all the boys on so that we could talk about all the best and maybe the worst things that have happened in professional wrestling in the year 2020. What a year, 2020.
Oof.
Good year in Matt's personal life. Congratulations, buddy. I know you had a kid this year.
I did, thank you. I had my wife put her to sleep so I could do the podcast and be as loud as I wanted. So
Put her.
shout out to her
That's
for
a bit
taking care of that.
extreme.
I was going to say, do you understand how that statement would have sounded if you're talking about your dog?
I do.
You gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Sometimes
Speaking of which, my dog just walked in. So yeah,
prove it. Pick it
It's
up.
like
This will be a rough podcast. Anyway,
Wait, so who here next is gonna have a kid? We're wondering. Everybody wants to know who's
Definitely
getting
Kyle.
close.
it's definitely Kyle.
Oh,
I
okay.
had
nice.
cats. I have cats.
Yeah.
It's definitely Kyle because he's got to give that T-shirt to somebody. It's a children's size small, obviously.
It's a medium, actually. It fits perfectly to my liking, so you can go fuck yourself.
It's called masturbation, and I might after the show. Okay.
Let's all take a sip at the same time.
Yes, everybody take a sip.
Just want
It's
to let you
weird
know that
when you get-
Hollis said you are a virgin, Brandon, and more than likely you'll be the next one to have a child. Just depends on how fast you catch them when they're running away.
I still
By
feel
the
like
way,
I am a
Fernando.
dad. I don't know if that would be beneficial.
Fernando says, "Congrats, Riddle." Just for the record, he did it on purpose, and
I like
also he's also requesting a roast Brandon segment,
Oh, damn.
which we should do. But you see, this is awkward, right? Let me tell you why. Because all of us are, well, except Brandon, are like the hosts of our own show. And we're almost like, I can almost tell the temperament is don't step on each other's toes here because we're all trying to talk. But it's okay, guys. This is a free-for-all. This is a round table. No ego. Egos aside. Brandon, why don't you host it since you never get to host a show? Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be the host. I
just
didn't
kidding.
know this is just wrestling based 2020 stuff, right? Or can it just be the year in
I mean,
review?
we
as
can
a
talk.
whole?
We can talk, brother.
Okay,
Why? What
yeah.
were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say before we get into it, I think the most important thing 2020 is Ali and
God, why
AJ have re-released
Yes.
Listen,
a breakup song, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait. Who
Listen,
sent you that, though? Wait. Before everyone just thinks that's Brandon, who sent you that?
No, yes, yes, yes. Kenny sent me the link.
And what was your response? Oh my God, they're all grown up now.
Dude, they're all grown up, man.
That tends to happen.
Fantastic. I grew up. It's weird because like you grow up with them and you're like, oh, it feels weird. And then they're like, well, we're the same age now, and they're like, yeah,
Right.
and they're like talking about grown people stuff now. It's great. It's fantastic.
What's your favorite song?
Is this how girls felt when like Chris Brown went off the handle?
No.
I was say, AJ's
Like-
been in a lot of stuff. Like she's been around, movies,
What?
TV shows.
Well, yeah, she was on Disney Channel. She did.
Well, no. After that, like as an
she was
adult.
on- she was in the movie
Yeah.
Grown Ups with Adam Sandler.
Was she?
Oh wow, yeah.
She was in
I didn't know
iZombie.
that.
She was.
See,
Look
I don't
at this,
actually
man.
watch anything but wrestling and porn. So I mean, that's
I was about to say, I think it's Matt's competition on Pornhub, Ali and AJ. In that video before.
The remake.
and
Kicking
we've
our
already
ass.
gone. We're getting kicked off of YouTube after we've been on air for like 15 minutes.
That's the only reason I came on here is to eliminate you so I could rise above you.
But yes.
But anyway,
Arm drags.
but we are here to talk about professional wrestling, believe it or not, even though we haven't even touched the subject yet. But what a weird year, guys. What a weird year. I don't think this has been, I think this has been the weirdest year of my life, personally. I don't know about anybody else. I mean, look, I'm wearing a dangly earring, for God's sake. So obviously I've gone through
Broken.
some stuff this year.
Kenny, you changed, Kenny.
I have changed. I've
Changed.
completely changed since last year. It's true. And it says, "Oh crap, Kenny, did you remember to clean off your screen?" Whoa. Hey, whoa. What does that mean?
Damn.
Do you still have your snow on the screen?
No, that was
Snow
snow.
effect.
I swear to God, that was
yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
If you look at that episode, I actually took off the effect halfway through after everybody said that. It was 100% snow.
Yeah, you wiped down the screen. I watched you. It's all good, man. Like,
I
relax.
admire the distance, though. I don't know how far your screen is, but man, that's some travel you got there.
I gotta say, 2020
Seemed-
for wrestling. Since
Yeah.
Kenny wants to keep it on wrestling. It started off really hot and heavy, and then it got super disappointing, and then it kind of picked back up again at the end, kind of like having sex with me. Finished
True,
strong.
guys. I can
Yeah.
attest to that.
It finished very strong, but the
Yeah.
middle,
Right. Left a
Well,
lot to
yeah.
be desired. You're kind of bored. You're like, why am I even putting myself through this? And then ultimately it was okay at the end.
Get from point A to point B.
Just like you said, in January, I mean, things seem so hopeful for professional wrestling. I mean, we had, let's start off with, I guess, the Rumble. One thing I do want to call attention to, because a lot of people might forget, that was the Rumble was the day Kobe Bryant passed away. So there was a weird, I don't want anyone to think the Rumble was really, really exciting, because I think we as wrestling fans, if you are also sports fans, the fact that, you know, Gianna and Kobe and then the rest of the people died in that helicopter crash, it really took the wind out of my sails going into the Rumble. So the Rumble was actually hard to watch at first, until I kind of lost myself in it. And I mean, put it this way, it was so impactful that on the WWE 24 or whatever that they had when they were talking about the Rumble, or no, it was Edge's return, actually, Edge's WWE 24. They actually did a spotlight on wrestlers kind of emotional about Kobe Bryant. So they were out of it too. But besides that, you know, obviously the biggest thing that happened at the Rumble, in my opinion, was Edge coming back.
Yeah.
Brandon was in the room with me. There's a reaction video somewhere on our YouTube. I jumped in the air and nobody else was reacting. I was actually really pissed off about that. Because to me, it was like, what were the odds of someone coming back after freaking 9 years and a triple neck fusion?
Mm-hmm.
Craziness.
But were there a lot of people saying like, "Oh, we always knew he was coming back. He was just lying to us"?
There were rumors. Like I remember specifically watching the show.
Yeah.
And being like, man, I hope Edge comes back. But like, will he though? Like, I was kind of skeptical
but do you
about
ever
it.
truly believe that? You know what I mean? It's kind of like Brandon
Right.
being with a woman. Like, there's a possibility, but it's really far. Like, it's really probably far off. And you're like, somewhere deep down inside, you know it's never going to happen.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be the guy on Twitter that's like, I always knew Brandon was going to get a girl. I
Right.
knew it from day one. I
guy.
never doubted it.
Right?
I tried to tell you guys.
Never be that guy, though. It's like, if you have to be right as opposed to having fun with it, like, you know, obviously I heard the rumors too. And like, there were rumors that he was up in Birmingham with Dr. Andrews and he was getting his neck checked out, but you didn't know what that was for necessarily, right? You didn't know that he was coming back for the Rumble. And then a lot of people speculated, but we speculated for years, MVP, Carlito, all of these people, and they never actually showed up. Well, MVP actually did show up in the 2020 Rumble, but we speculated for years on things. So when his music actually hit, I freaking came out of my skin.
Yeah.
I mean, it was wild. It was wild. And it kind of gave me hope for 2020, believe it or not. It was like, you know, hey, anything is possible.
So
And
damn.
sorry. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No doubt that Edge's return was a big deal, but in retrospect, based on his injury, would you say that MVP was the bigger return? Looking back on it as 2020 a whole?
If we're talking about the year 2020, 100%. I've actually, and no pun intended, I've told Brandon multiple times that I feel MVP is the MVP of Monday Night Raw, because during the first half of the quarantine era, you know, the COVID era with no crowds, MVP was on multiple segments saving that show and had no business. He wasn't even contracted fully at the time, and he had no business to be as good as he was, and yet he went in there and stole the show, and it was like, you know, that takes a lot of balls. Can you imagine? I mean, guys, full disclosure, we're coming on here right now in our houses with nobody around. When you first start doing these kind of things, it's kind of awkward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even if you are talking to someone, it's kind of awkward because you're like, there's no one actually around me, even though you know there's people watching on YouTube. Hopefully,
Nah,
if they
nobody's
watch
watching.
my show,
I mean, Diego and Fernando and Hollis, but that's really it.
Oh, yeah.
that's it. That's about it.
First Monday
Those
Night
three
Raw
people.
after the Rumble,
Yeah.
MVP, I believe he faced Mysterio, and he botched a few spots in that match. I think he botched the 619, and I was doubtful at that point. I was like, oh, what is this guy doing coming back? And then
Right.
over time, like, look at the Hurt Business right now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I feel like they found his niche, right? So at first they were like, "Oh, we're going to bring him back as a performer." That didn't work out too well because he is limited. You know, he's up there in age, and I don't know if anybody had saw on Vice. There was a show called, I think, The Wrestlers, and he was talking about winding down his career because of injury, and this was his last year in wrestling, and then all of a sudden he's back in WWE. So I wasn't surprised to see that he had, like, you know, missed a couple of steps and things like that.
Yeah.
But then they found. They did a really good job because they were like, okay, let's put him with some other athletes he can bring up. And now that he wrestles sporadically, because I think up until like last week, he hadn't wrestled in like 2 months, like something like that. And then he started again. But they found his role. They definitely found his role.
Yeah,
And that's any proof for that. I mean, compare Bobby Lashley from 2019 to 2020, and MVP
there's no comparison.
People thought, that Lana Rusev storyline killed Lashley, but then you throw MVP. It did. It
did for me.
As you thought. I mean,
He's
he's the United States champion right now, and he's with MVP, who's hyping him up. And then you got guys like Cedric Alexander, who was dead in the water pretty much, and Shelton Benjamin. And when you said he's MVP, and a lot of that is just based on how many people he's brought up with him. Cedric, Shelton, Lashley, all those guys were, drowning. And then now, as we're doing this podcast, they're all like the main focal point of Raw. So it's really a testament to how talented MVP is in all facets.
I'll be brave enough to say it. I mean, like, full disclosure, the fact that he's bringing up black athletes to me, especially in the temperament of 2020, I think was needed. And I think that was I think WWE made the right call with doing it this year. And I don't think that was by I don't think Vince sat there and said, "Damn it, push Shelton Benjamin." But it just happened organically. The Hurt Business got pushed. They saw what they were doing and they decided to put Cedric Alexander in there, add different elements. But it's exactly what 2020 needed. It's exactly what 2020 needed. And I'm personally happy. Say it again?
It's what Raw needed.
Absolutely. But apparently that's not reflecting in the ratings, but we'll get into that, I guess, right?
Should MVP recruit Retribution? Do you think he could take Retribution to the next level?
Brandon, what's wrong with you? Brandon comes up with this fantasy booking that like has no rhyme or reason. And Brandon's like, Chris Jericho could come back, join the Hurt Business, It's like I can see it.
I was watching you talk, Kenny, and you're very eloquent. You were doing a great job talking about how he's raised these black athletes up, and I could just see in Brandon's eyes, this is bullshit. There are way too many black guys in that group. It's true. Get rid of some of those guys right now.
It's true.
Brandon kills
me, T-bar.
Give me a T-bar. Give me a Ziggler.
Also,
Ziggler, the Hurt Business.
We're like 20 minutes or so into this, and we have not acknowledged Tattoo in his background. Are we not? Are we not bring that up?
Yeah, should we? It's to be expected, though, right? So Tattoo. If anybody doesn't know who Tattoo is, Brandon's lesbian obsession. They also did the theme song for Victoria in 2002.
How's that go, Kenny?
Lost my mind. Go ahead, Brandon.
What?
All the things she said, running through my head, running through my head.
I was like, I'm not going to be able to hit this note.
Number one played song on Spotify, 2020, ladies and gentlemen.
Was that around the same time that HLA was a thing with Eric Bischoff?
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm. Well, no, a little bit after HLA. A little bit after, maybe like 2-3 months after. Can you believe there was a time period where literally a man came out on TV and said, "I know what you want to see: hot lesbian action."
I mean,
and it was like, okay,
they did want to see that though.
I mean,
and then they brought out two of the biggest, sexiest Samoans we have ever seen, and completely took away all the lesbians.
Roman Reigns was there. I don't remember him being there.
Yeah.
First of all, Roman Reigns is very pretty. I would. Yeah. Getting back to February in professional wrestling, anything happen in AEW?
We're in February.
Speaking of lesbians, AEW.
Did anything happen in AEW in January? Someone's going to have to fill me in because you know what the problem is I have with AEW in terms of like my memory? I just think of AEW so good that I almost don't remember it, remember moments. I just remember that it was decent. I don't remember when things have happened. WWE is so it's kind of like Ritter in bed, like he said. It's just very stagnant, very stale, and all of a sudden peak. That I remember the moments,
But yeah, I mean, they're so new though. It's not like because the WWE has established okay, the year is from Royal Rumble to whatever the fuck TLC, but AEW has had more time pre-COVID or post-COVID than pre-COVID, so it's like such a weird time warp in your head. See, I agree. I don't even remember what happened this year in AEW.
And that's a big thing is you have the benchmarks with WWE where you can attach things to, like you said, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, so on and so forth. Great point, Kyle. You're so pretty. So you can attach those things there. You don't have that with AEW because, you have All In, but I honestly don't even remember what point All In happens because we've had, 2 now? What point of the year All In happens?
Revolution was this year, right? Revolution was
Revolution was February.
That was a
So-
great pay-per-view, which, you know, it
Yeah.
it doesn't even feel like it was this year, but then it's
No,
some of the best matches of the year.
Was that Kenny
Yeah.
and Mox?
That was
Yeah.
a Mox
Kenny and
Jericho.
Mox. No, Kenny and Mox was the
was-
November.
That was
Yes, I
Mox
don't remember.
Jericho. That was where Mox won the title from Jericho.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
believe.
That's where he came in through the crowd, like that special entrance or whatever. Like
Right.
from outside, I should say.
And that was where that Young Bucks versus Omega and Page match happened.
Oh, it's a good match.
That's
See, that's
probably
the thing.
yeah.
I don't because I don't have criticisms too much of AEW. I'm like I struggle to remember it because it's just good television.
I think
but
also
later
with
on.
WWE though. Sorry,
So go ahead, Joey.
WWE I think is more moment oriented, where they're not looking long term.
I agree.
AEW is long term. This story, because think about it. How many WWE pay per views do you have a year, and how many AEW pay per views do you have a year?
Right.
AEW is like 4 months out each pay per view.
Mhm.
WWE
Right.
does sometimes 2 in a month. You know, so they're more moment oriented. Where that's why we're talking about what we are talking about. AEW is just consistent. It's always consistent, and then
Exactly.
the payoffs at the pay per view, and they already go and jumping into something else. So it is very hard to find those moments in AEW, but I don't
It's
know.
like me. I'm like AEW in bed. Ritter's like WWE in bed.
Got it.
Fast and disappointing.
He is he is the bigger company after all.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I think AEW's had some great moments. I just can't remember what month stuff happens in.
Exactly.
But yeah, because I can't really associate things with a pay per view or anything like that. But I remember, the segment with Jericho and MJF, the singing number. Like I remember that. I remember the steak dinner stuff. I remember Sting. I remember. So there's big things that have happened in AEW that I
But
can
later
remember.
on. So that's actually kind of, and thanks for basically
Right.
jumping to what I was trying to
Sorry.
say, which is towards the end of the year, I feel like AEW is now starting to be a little bit more moment oriented. So to Joey's point, it was a lot of consistency. But to me, consistency is amazing. But sometimes you got to do something to, push the needle a little bit more. And AEW definitely found the formula later on in the year.
Agreed.
And kudos to them. We'll get to that, since we're running through this. But February, the one thing that stands out in my mind was, and this is so crazy that this even happened with the way she's booked now, but was Shayna Baszler running through the Elimination Chamber and just running through everyone, beating every single person in that match. And it's so crazy because it's like she's not being pushed like that anymore.
And that's, what Joey was talking about earlier is how WWE is moment oriented. And that's kind of like an example of that is because they were thinking so short term. They're thinking, okay, we're in February and we're trying to build her to WrestleMania like a month from now. But we're not thinking of the long term for Shayna Baszler. So they dedicated that whole Elimination Chamber match to building her up, and it did a great job. But once WrestleMania happens, what did Shayna do after that? She's a tag champion right now. But ultimately, she should have been such a bigger star after that than she ended up becoming, in my opinion.
But do you think that was because now again we have the gift of hindsight? Do you think that that's because of Becky Lynch's pregnancy? Obviously, Becky was pregnant during WrestleMania, so she couldn't really take bumps. Do you think that that's why maybe the Shayna Baszler push got kind of derailed? Because maybe she would have been like dominant in that match. Say it again?
The reason why it happened. If Becky was leaving, they needed someone to fill in.
That was that was Asuka, effectively, right? She took the title from Becky, and I think there's still money in Shayna versus Asuka, but even more so at that time, I feel like. So I feel like that still could have been a way for them to go with that.
I guess the point I'm arguing is like, do you think like maybe if COVID hadn't happened and they're they were going to be in Raymond James Stadium, and Becky Lynch wasn't pregnant, do you think Shayna Baszler would have walked in and whooped Becky Lynch's ass to make that moment mean more? Because you also don't want to have a situation where, okay, let's say Becky was pregnant and she's not getting beat up, so how is she going to lose the title? It makes her look weak if they kind of have Shayna win on a fluke. So it's like I feel like they were booked into a hole. I don't know.
What did Asuka do after she took the title? I honestly don't remember.
Good question.
Hey, Naya.
Was it Nia?
Wait. So Ritter looks confused. Ritter wants to bring up a point.
He always looks confused.
Did Becky know at WrestleMania that she was pregnant?
That's a big
dirt
question.
sheets. And again, I'm going off of dirt sheets again because we
Terrible
know
idea.
reputation of dirt sheets sometimes are not, not good. But there are rumors that WWE knew she was pregnant, but obviously they will never address that because even if they did know, they're not gonna say that. Which now then begs the question. You remember when Brandon was on this podcast talking about? Why can't the Bella Twins wrestle pregnant?
Why couldn't they go?
Well,
Point.
that's
Double
my other point
baby
was if they wanted to put it over, we had, the Firefly Funhouse match with Cena and The Fiend. We had the Boneyard match. They could have cinematically done something with Becky and Shayna to put Shayna over and put the title on her and get Becky out of that if they wanted to.
They
I
could have.
agree.
They
I
had
agree.
an opening with that too, because if you remember that beginning of the feud, she
bit her.
was like a vampire and she bit
Yeah, she bit
her neck.
Oh,
She just played into
like
that.
again, what were they thinking? Like they literally had Shayna Baszler bite Becky Lynch in the neck and draw blood, and it was just like it didn't make sense for the Shayna Baszler character. Like to draw blood for the Shayna Baszler character, she should have beat her into a bloody pulp, not bite her neck.
But after Becky Lynch announced that she was pregnant, what they should have done is had Shayna Baszler come out, bite Becky Lynch's her uterus, stomach area, kill the baby, and then you have a built-in feud. Once Becky Lynch comes
Kenny,
back.
don't act like this is something new.
Kyle,
We've
that's
had
long-term
multiple
booking.
miscarriages.
That is long-term booking.
See, I'm thinking long-term. You can call her the abortion Shayna Baszler. It's a whole. You got branding. You got T-shirts.
Bloodstained t-shirts.
Yeah.
Why would you ever
the foam fingers? but
abortion Shayna Baszler?
in the shape of placenta, like foam fingers.
Hey, listen, Gene Snitsky kicked a baby into the crowd.
I was going to say.
Anything is possible.
Fair point. Fair
Do you
point.
not remember
Wait. That wasn't his fault, okay?
Terry Reynolds
Well, it's
had
someone's
a miscarriage story. Lita, with the baby getting punted. We've done this.
But she was
before.
actually pregnant. None of those were actually pregnant.
Let's just
Which is
be
why we said
thankful-
cinematic. He didn't say
Yeah.
actually go in there and tear the baby out.
No, my point is none of those women were actually pregnant in real life.
Was Lita
be
pregnant with
thankful we
Kane?
have that in a Vicky Guerrero segment.
Could you imagine what we could have done with CGI?
Man.
Really
I
good.
mean, Rey Mysterio's eye got taken out, so
But let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. So that'll lead us into WrestleMania, since Ritter did mention that. So let me
Speaking
give
of
a backstory where I was. So obviously, go ahead, Matt. What were you going to say?
I was just, Hollis wanted you to smack Brandon, but since you can't, Brandon, can you smack yourself for Hollis? Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Just do that every
Now- So February, full disclosure, I've said it on this podcast before. Brandon and I are from Tampa, Florida. Brandon and I have been to eight WrestleMania, 7 or 8 WrestleManias. I think 7, because I think this was supposed to be our 8th. We've been traveling. This is like our trip, every year. This year we were so excited. We're like, oh, it's going to be in Tampa, Florida. Oh, it's going to be, we could sleep in our own beds and then go 15 minutes to Raymond James Stadium. We're amazingly excited. And then all of a sudden, this COVID stuff hits, something the world hasn't seen. And at first, it was like, oh man, so we'll get the hang of this. That we'll get this under control. I had full hopes. I was like, we're going to WrestleMania. I don't give a shit. Like Vince McMahon will make it happen. Like that's just how it's gonna be. Then, about 2 weeks before WrestleMania was supposed to happen, I'm driving back from Gainesville, Florida. And I should have known, right? Because I went to get my sisters from college and brought them back because of the COVID scare. And my phone starts blowing up. People texting me, messaging me on Twitter, tweeting me, things like that. I'm like, what the hell is going on? WrestleMania moved to WWE Performance Center. What went through your minds when y'all read that headline?
Absolute nonsense, man. I thought it was going to happen. I thought we were still going to have the show. I didn't know that we're going to just completely shut everything down. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It's Vince, who pushes through. The show
right.
must go
That's
on,
what I said,
you were
too.
saying, yeah. And so I thought we were going to be there. And then, you're like, no, it's in the Performance Center. I was in denial, even after you said, like, man, whatever.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. And nope, it was in the fucking Performance Center.
But it didn't make sense. It was almost like, you got to remember at the time, now we're it's a little bit more normalized. But at the time, we were like, there's no way. There's no way it's being pushed to the Performance Center. Even then, we thought maybe
People
they would still do it in Raymond James. And
I think too, though, how the media was at that time, where everyone was extremely scared about it, where everything was shutting down and everyone was expecting Mania to be canceled. I thought it was going to be canceled.
Do you
When
remember
I
the
heard
rumors of the delay?
Yeah, when I heard that they're doing it at the PC, I'm like, they might as well just cancel it at this point. I mean, like, how is their reputation going to, stand with everybody saying, "Oh, this is shut down, this is shut down," and Vince is like,
Right.
"No, we're keeping it up." You know what I mean? So I thought they were shutting it down. Personally,
Yeah, I remember reading rumors that there was internal discussion of it being moved basically to extreme rules. Then they would kind of hotshot the storylines going to SummerSlam because I know it's so crazy to think, but at that time we were like, oh, this pandemic's going to be a 2-3 month thing. We'll go back to work, like we'll be normal, everything will be normalized, and that's it. And here we are. I mean, it's freaking January 2021. We don't seem to be any more normal than we were a year ago.
Kenny, you tweeted today, I think, about WrestleMania last year. Us all expecting this year WrestleMania to be in a different position, and we're just about there. That's what I think. It's something like what you tweeted today.
Yeah, I said we were, so sure that once WrestleMania 36 happened, it'll be the only WrestleMania like that. I can't wait till next year when they're in Hollywood. Now we're at the time period where WrestleMania is 2 months away, and there is still a big question mark on if they are going to do it in Hollywood, California. And I think, I personally think the litmus test, if you will be at the Royal Rumble. Because if they don't have fans at the Royal Rumble, I don't foresee them having fans at WrestleMania. I don't think they will. I kind of think, I don't know why, but I think they'll have like pockets of fans because they're in Tropicana Field. Again, maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I can see it happening because AEW is doing it, because WWE is doing it at NXT.
Doing it, yeah.
Right. It's like, I can kind of see it happening, and maybe they test the waters. But who knows? Who knows?
Well, does anybody know about the Super Bowl this year, maybe? If they're going to think about
Super Bowl's going on. Okay. Super Bowl's going on at Raymond James Stadium.
Well, they have Florida, like very limited people there, right?
Okay.
Limited, yes.
Similar
but that's kind of, but we're in Florida, and I hate to say it, but Florida barely has any restrictions. That's kind of what I'm getting at, where I wouldn't be surprised if, the Rumble had people in it,
If we're looking at what they do now with the Thunderdome, that's why it was created,
right.
I don't think they expected fans to be anytime soon, because you have to think also they want to withhold their reputation. So if they let fans in,
right, and somebody gets sick,
people are gonna bring negative, it's gonna bring negativity towards their reputation. So if they keep fans out, we'll see.
So Diego brings up a point. He says they should do WrestleMania with a crowd that can only enter if fully vaccinated. How do you feel about that?
They'll never take me alive, damn it.
I'm fully fine with Brandon never walking into another WrestleMania again. Is that the question?
Yeah. Yes, Matt. Yes, Riddler.
No, fuck you. To answer the question, though, honestly, to take the Kenny stance on it, when I saw that WrestleMania was going on this year, I was just happy we were going to get WrestleMania. Like, even though it wasn't going to have a crowd, and I know all of you people that had tickets were sad, and I didn't, so I didn't really feel bad for you, but I kind of did.
Fuck him. That's what I'm saying.
I'm like, I'm still going to sit at home and I get to watch WrestleMania, so it'll be interesting to see. Now, as far as the vaccinated crowd, I mean, if that's what they want to go do, and there's enough vaccinations to get enough people in there, then yeah, fine, cool. Like, I'd rather have some people in attendance than no one in attendance, but I'd also rather have LED screens than what we had this year's with piped in crowd noise. So, like, they're finding a way to make it somewhat more enjoyable.
Right. Going back to WrestleMania, though, I mean, since we're on the topic, hindsight again being 2020, I remember thinking like, oh my God, this is so awkward. This is one WrestleMania I will say I don't think you can really watch it back and be happy unless you're watching the cinematic matches. If you're watching the rest of the show, I think it's like just abysmal, and it's not their fault. But at the time when you were quarantined, you had nothing to do, and to be blunt, I allowed Brandon to come in my house. Like, I was like, Brandon was the first person to enter my house after anything, and the only person for maybe 6 months. Obviously besides my daughter. My daughter was here, but we watched it, and it was just like I was almost so grateful because there was nothing else going on. And to Joey's point, I was almost like, thank you, Vince McMahon, for actually taking the risk of being quote unquote irresponsible enough to do a WrestleMania for us to entertain us. Because and then to make it 2 days, I think was such a good decision.
You think they're
because
gonna do that this year?
I wouldn't if they don't do a crowd, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2-day event again.
Yeah.
If they do a crowd, definitely 1 day. Definitely a 1-day event. They're not going to risk that twice. But yeah, it was just so cool to have a Saturday and a Sunday where we forgot about COVID for a little bit. You know,
They did the best they could.
they did
a Zoom
absolutely.
party.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
when I watched,
Well, I think a lot of us did.
looking back on it now, you know, being at the beginning of COVID, I don't think nobody knew it was going to be where it is right now. So looking back now, I think if you ever have a moment in history where someone says, oh, WWE sucks and WWE this, go back, watch that WrestleMania. Look what they did in that scary time. Leaving their families, doing all this stuff, and put on a fantastic show. Cinematic matches, whatever. Fantastic.
They made it work.
You know,
And that was definitely
Kevin Owens throwing himself off the sign, you know, Seth, that, you know, all the things that they did. If you look back at the documentary, filming with Taker and AJ, Taker losing his brother the night before, filming whole 24 hours to do that match. You know, a lot of effort and I don't know what else you want to call it went into that show. So looking back,
and risk,
now,
a lot of risk.
And I think fans looking, if you go watch now, you're gonna think, damn, like I appreciate the hell out of these people, you know.
Absolutely.
Most people don't know this, but WrestleMania was actually on my birthday, and I personally asked Vince McMahon to put on a show for my birthday. And he obliged.
Thanks, Riddles.
So,
Thanks.
you know.
Wait, your birthday was 2 days?
Wow.
Yeah, I have a 2-day birthday. I was born.
Look at that head. It takes a long
The
time
head
to come
popped
out.
out at 11:59. The rest of me right
Okay.
at midnight. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The train didn't leave the station the whole time, you know.
exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, some of us come out.
Apologize
deeper,
for talking
so-
about your mother like that. I apologize.
I got stuck. It's not on her.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, honestly though, Mania I think was a perfect example of making chicken salad out of chicken shit. You know, it's kind of like me in this podcast. Like, you know, like I put myself through it with Brandon as a co-host, but you know, ultimately I come out on the other side.
Yeah, it's some
Everything
mayonnaise.
turns out okay.
Add some mayonnaise and it becomes okay.
Yeah.
Right. It becomes bearable. People tune in for me, see me abuse Brandon. I mean,
Exactly.
what other podcast would they ask for a roast session of the co-host?
I don't know another podcast who puts on face paint for a podcast show. So
I
I
can't
give it
think
to
of
Right. Unless Sting has a podcast. Has anybody confirmed that?
Not yet.
coming soon. AEW restricted thing.
So pretty.
But again, talking about WrestleMania, the cinematic matches I think stole the show.
Yeah.
I think everybody has dwindled it down to which one was the best match: the Firefly Funhouse, or what was that? It wasn't called the
Boneyard match.
Firefly Fun.
Oh, no, it was Firefly Funhouse match and then the Boneyard match.
Okay, it was called the Firefly
But
Funhouse match. Okay,
going-
Boneyard. Mhm.
Going off that, because those are two, like, well, more so the Boneyard match, because that won the Slammy for best match of the year, right?
Right. Yep.
And I think it's pretty much universally at least liked by all fans. So I guess it's kind of a question for everybody. Like, I feel like WWE could have used this time to more utilize cinematic style matches. Even like stuff like the Final Beat with Ciampa and Gargano. It doesn't have to always be like Graveyard, fucking Funhouse, weird shit like that. Like it could be matches shot in a cinematic style.
They did though. I mean, they did for a while, like you said. Like that match was technically a cinematic. The Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole
Right.
parking lot brawl was technically cinematic. Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins kind of was cinematic.
I guess
sort of.
my question is, I feel like they could have used that more so than just regular matches with no crowds. I feel like they could have utilized this time to experiment more with that.
So I will say, just from we have a fan. His name is Mason. He has a podcast called Wrestling in the Dark. He actually gave me the other side of the coin of that, and I'm sure a lot of you are in the chat with him, so you know what I'm talking about. Mason said he doesn't like the cinematic matches because there's no commentary on those matches. So as a blind wrestling fan, there's literally like those cinematic matches, he can't experience it at all because you don't have Michael Cole saying, you know, AJ Styles getting put in the grave, things like that. So something to be conscious of, you know, like I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, they could have done like the what was the Matt Hardy Sammy Guevara match where they had commentary for it. So they could have evolved it, or at least maybe even if not matches, maybe more like backstage, like kind of. I don't know if you guys remember, but when they were building up to one final beat with Ciampa and Gargano, they allocated like an entire hour of NXT.
Yes, absolutely. I remember I was like, why is it going on so early? And then sure enough, it went the full hour.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like they could have at least done more of that stuff, more like character development based stuff rather than matches. I mean, it's a learning experience for everybody, so I can't blame them for what they've put out. But
let me ask you though,
exactly.
Do you think that that what was that match with Wyatt and Bray, or Wyatt and Braun, that was cinematic? Do you think that would have done well with commentary?
I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you can do much worse. So it's like, why not put commentary on it?
Yeah.
Edge and Orton was a little bit of a kind of a weird one at WrestleMania. That was kind of like cinematic, but not cinematic. So that had commentary.
Might understand you didn't like the swamp fight.
I didn't.
Get out of my swamp!
What?
Yeah, I did not like the swamp.
Get out my swamp!
Swamp fight kind of
yeah.
Braun Strowman fighting himself? You didn't enjoy that?
I liked it, but it was like I think it kind of left a little bit to be desired at the end.
Didn't he drown? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not everything's gonna hit. Not everything's gonna hit. I admire the attempt.
I thought it was.
What's up with this podcast, by the way? Like Ritter's actually like, I enjoyed it, and I'm like, I don't know. Like that never happens. His podcast, he's a little bit more critical. I'm the one that's like, no, it was okay. And here we are when you put us together.
Anyone that's watching saw the faces I was making when you're like, AEW is so good. I don't remember a whole lot about what happened, but it's just so good that I can't remember.
I'm sure it was good.
About it. Yeah.
Hey, AEW was good. I like AEW. What's wrong with AEW?
Yeah, and Helico.
What was your favorite moment? The whole year, AEW.
What's wrong is you can't remember anything that happened for the first half of the year.
Oh wait, did AEW have that great hardcore match with Proud and Powerful?
That was relatively recent.
Yeah.
Was it though? I don't think it was.
I don't know.
That was probably like August. That wasn't as recent as you think it is.
What month is it? Oh, it's January. Holy shit. What
happened? Exactly. So probably, if we're talking AEW, the match that we can talk about was about April, May. I can't remember when the pay-per-view was, but the Stadium Stampede match was kind of that cinematic feel.
No, it was.
Now, this is my gripe, okay? So let's go back a little bit. In March, we had the debuts of two amazing people, which were Matt Hardy, coming from WWE, and Brody Lee, the former Luke Harper, being introduced as the Exalted One. And I was more excited. Yeah, rest in peace, Brody Lee. We'll get into that. But I was more excited for the debut of Matt Hardy. And I think everybody was. When he showed up, sadly enough, on the first episode that didn't have a crowd at AEW, and he was just in the stands. What a debut. Really powerful debut.
Yeah.
And then I feel like nothing happened with Matt Hardy. Because to me, we talk about cinematic matches. To tie this back in, you have the king, pretty much the inventor of the cinematic match. You have all of these opportunities to have matches at the Hardy compound. And Matt will shoot them himself. So in terms of budget, you don't really have to do much. Why wouldn't you utilize Matt Hardy more in that sense?
Who doesn't want to see Senor Benjamin?
But I mean, he had one of the best yet most arguably controversial segments in that Stadium Stampede match, where he went through all the transformations while being dunked in the water, and everyone, because of what happened with Shad Gaspar, took that as them mocking Shad. Which, come on, people, really think they're that? Like, I'll give AEW shit, but that would be extremely classless, and I do not see them doing that.
No, and I always said, just to add to your point, I always said that if your mind goes there, it's actually a reflection of you, not the company. And another example of that, to your point, Ritter, was Edge versus Orton. When Edge wrapped one of the cables around Orton's neck, people were like, whoa, but Chris Benoit. And I'm like, who was thinking that?
Seriously?
Who the fuck was thinking that? You know what I mean? It just says something about your mind if that's where you went with that.
Right.
Why
That was
certain-
right around the time the Dark Side of the Ring came out, and it was pretty fresh on.
That was a little bit more specific though, because I do remember thinking that because it was so exact. Like it was the same workout machine that I don't know if it was the exact same. It was a lat pull down or whatever.
You do have a point there. I forgot about that. That whole.
It was.
I forgot about the
so
Dark Side of the
good.
Ring stuff too.
Yeah,
To be honest, yeah.
That's also a good point.
sense.
Yeah, but I mean, even though it's like to have outrage about it, it's like that's
Right.
not what they were trying to do.
So this wasn't on my sheet, but can we talk about the Dark Side of the Ring actually being a very, very ironically enough light in the dark when it came
Right.
to professional wrestling? Because during that first half of the quarantine, I remember tuning in every single week for Dark Side of the Ring because I had time. We all did. I remember Sling TV. I didn't have TV, and Sling was giving it for free during the quarantine. And I remember feeling so blessed to be able to see all of these, And if you don't remember the Chris Benoit one, again, really early in the quarantine, they actually released that fully on YouTube before it was even supposed to come out. So
I don't think it was fully. I think it was like
no, it was episode 1 because it was a
episode
2-part
one?
episode. Yeah, it was
you're
a
right. You're
2-part
right.
episode.
It was 2 episodes.
And so they released the first week basically for free. So yeah, kudos to them. And season 2, I think it was probably the best season. It was better than season 1.
Yeah,
It's Diego's bedtime. He has to leave, so everyone say good night, Diego.
Good night,
Good
Diego.
night, Diego.
Sleep well.
He needs a
His
story
mom
told
caught
to
him
him.
watching us and said, "Shut that shit off." So
He's like, who's that crude bald white guy on the top screen? Get that shit off my screen.
no, she heard Kyle.
That guy, I've seen that guy on Pornhub.
He's a top.
I've seen that guy on Pornhub.
Only 11. It's not after hours yet. We're good.
Dark Side of the Ring was fantastic. Like you said, this season was probably the best. I really enjoyed it because my wife was working from home and she was pregnant at the time when this came out. So I actually was able to go in while she was working and sit in there with her while she was working and watch the shows. And she watched wrestling like early on in the Attitude Era and then got out of it. So there was a lot in there that she didn't know that we were talking about and chatting. And that was a cool little bonding moment that we had during quarantine over like some wrestling shit that we could watch together, in the morning.
Wait, hold on a second. You and your wife bonded over UWF owner Herb Adams being naked and snorting cocaine in his cowboy boots.
Yes. Also, how my daughter was born. Well, conceived.
No
I've got
comment.
the
guys.
cowboy boots.
Someone
Would
else
you
go.
like
I can't respond to that.
The birth
I'd like
was
to
done
get
to
cowboy
that.
boots.
I need him. Prove it.
Thanks, Ritter. Nobody knows what to say after that. Everybody's got that image going through their head right now.
I just got the image of you being a power top out of my head.
I have
Brandon
noticed that
being a
Kyle's hands
bottom.
have been
Come on.
Yeah.
below the screen most.
Why don't you mind your own business, okay?
Kyle, when you say
I'm
that,
up
just
here.
look up. Look up to him. Like,
We gotta do like the Brady Bunch thing.
Hey,
Hold on,
Brandon.
everybody, hold on. Hold
how's
on.
the air down there?
Feels good. Smother me some more.
Smother me some more. Okay. Brandon's a nice middle here, right where he likes to be. Give her and a receiver. Anyway,
Hey, Kenny,
Yeah.
Kenny. I have to make a sissy real quick. Do I need a bathroom pass?
No. Please.
No,
Brandon knows.
absolutely go.
Brandon
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah, see?
Just put-
See? Kyle, I'm right there with you, buddy.
You're gonna see my Shawn Michaels shorts.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
trying to
oh,
I think
yeah.
I'm cute. Wow.
Helicopter. Meat spin.
I
Yeah.
knew that was the men's bathroom.
Look
I
at that.
told you.
Ritter was right. He was right. He said that's a men's and women's restroom there.
Oh
Come
man,
on.
he was right. He was right. But anyway, getting back into it, let's talk about
Birthday,
shit
Kyle
before
dressed
Kyle
himself.
comes back.
Congratulations.
Wait. While he's in the bathroom, I did want to bring up one thing. We were talking about your mind going to weird places.
Oh God.
Yeah, like my sister or my mom or somebody, they had shown me this picture. It's like this interracial couple, and they're like looking all like happy, like holding each other. And they're like,
Where is this going?
Yeah, they're like, what's wrong with this picture? And I'm like, I'm looking at it. I'm staring at it for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm
He's
thinking,
missing an eyebrow.
yeah, I'm like, he's missing an eyebrow, some sort of optical illusion. It's like flipped.
Oh, okay. I
And
thought
she's
that was
like,
it.
"You don't see it?" I was like, "No." And there was like a little cotton wreath or something like down at the bottom corner of the image. And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "What? Like, how is this supposed to?" Like,
Brandon's
why
too
would my mind
innocent.
even
Though.
go there?
He's
Here's
been
the
waiting
thing.
to say this for like 3 hours. I can only I can bet.
This happened
Brandon.
just before we came on air.
Isn't that weird? It's like, why would my mind even go there? Like, I'm not thinking about Chris Benoit. I'm not thinking about cotton. picking.
No, it's not the same thing. That is definitely not the
weird.
same thing. Brandon, all in favor. Is that the same thing?
It's the same thing.
No.
No,
What?
absolutely not. And now that Kyle's back, oh sweet mother of God, this man was drinking a 12% beer before he got
12%.
12% beer before he got back. So obviously that's why his hips are a shaking.
My hips
I want to know where you shop.
What's up?
Where do you shop?
Brandon, by the way, we're still on air. It's not like we went off air for that, by the way. Good job.
The shirt is from Roosevelts.com, and these shorts are from WWEshop.com. Actually.
Oh, nice.
Does Roosevelt sell adult clothes?
No, but
I have a question. Wait. I have a question.
3
Do
inches
they make
flaccid,
clothes
5
for
erect.
men? Do they make clothes for men, Kyle?
I say. What are you trying to say?
Anyway,
Are
getting
you
back
trying
to
to hurt
it.
me?
What month are we on, brother? So I
Thank
guess let's
God you
start-
weren't here for Brandon's awkward interracial photo story.
It was
Brandon,
I don't know what the hell he was talking
basically,
about.
It was topical.
let me summarize.
Right, it was
Let me
topical.
summarize.
I'd rather
Brandon
hear
asked a
about that
question.
too.
Brandon asked a question where he basically was denouncing black people. Is
No,
pretty much what
I was
happened.
not.
I think we could do
That's
another
exactly
half
what
hour on that. So
Hey,
my
Sure.
thing
Comment.
is,
speaking of black people, ready?
Yeah.
Look how many black champions we have in WWE right now.
too many,
Absolutely.
right?
Too many. Yeah.
So
Across
all,
the board.
Kyle, you're Kyle out of the
all
money.
jokes aside, right? And Brandon said this tongue in cheek once, but I got what he meant by it. He said, he's like, back in my day, the only black person in WWE was Devon Dudley. And I remember when he said that, I remember thinking like, wow, like the company is really, really diverse now. And it's such a good thing. I mean, I think, was it Impact Wrestling that had their first, I think it's first time in history of wrestling, the 2 black wrestlers challenged for the world title in a
Rich
company.
Swann and Chris Bay.
And that is ridiculous that it was the first time that that's happened. The fact that that's the statistic in 2020 is ridiculous. But at the same time, again, we go back to the Hurt Business. This was the year for it to happen, right? So I'm actually glad it did, finally.
Yeah. I'll
But
bring this
I don't
up,
want
though.
that.
The Rock
Go ahead.
versus Booker T at SummerSlam 2001. Me and the Riddle Man over there. Let me get here. Pointing up at you. Me and the Riddle Man covered that on the apron bump.
Yeah.
The Rock versus Booker T. 2 black.
And during that
people.
segment, we ranked every male in that segment by penis size, and we determined that Ron Simmons was the biggest, and
Fair.
Shane McMahon had the smallest.
Yeah, I think that's
I think Shane's packing.
Yeah, Shane's
If
probably
the fact that he could rotate his penis to prevent a helicopter crash. Okay?
that's a sentence that was said.
Right. I think you remember that famous McMahon genitalia, the genetic jackhammer. This is genetic
I
jackhammer
thought it was
Jr.
all about the grapefruits, though, not the vine.
Right.
Big grapefruit, small vine.
How can you wait? How can you have big
Jackhammer's
grapefruits if the vine is small?
Very possible.
Well,
if the fruit's gonna grow on the vine, brother, the vine's got to be big. Yeah.
Well, what do you think AJ Styles would have to say about that?
I don't know how big it is. I know when I got signed, I had to kiss Vince's ass a little bit. I did give a little stroke.
Okay.
It was all right. I mean, I try.
A little vulgar for that case, but
Kenny, can you do Vicky Guerrero?
No.
volume down there.
I was gonna say, are we talking about like, can we do Vicky? Like, would we do Vicky?
We
Guerrero?
That's a whole other episode.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I mean,
physically.
Yeah.
But,
So arm
anyway,
drags.
getting back into April. April was a weird time because we saw the releases of the Revival. I forgot there was somebody else who got released early April as well. A big name. I think it was Matt Hardy. Or that might have been no, that was February.
It was S.A. Rios.
Hardy was March.
Yes, so Hardy was early March, and then he showed up in AEW. The Revival is definitely early April. But then we came to about what, April 15th, I think the date was?
April 15th.
And I think that is a date that will live in infamy because
WWE.
yeah, it was a sad day because I think with everybody being quarantined especially and really paying attention to social media when this was happening, I don't know about you, but as wrestling fans, like my heart broke. And a lot of performers were released by WWE. Again, you got to understand, this was a time period where we didn't know what was going to happen in these companies. And no less than 30, 40 names were released in one day in
Yeah, Mike
WWE,
Chioda.
and a lot more furloughed.
Yeah.
So I think Joey might have the
You want me to read off
the
the
names
list?
here.
He's a
Yeah,
Sandman.
we can read off.
And you know what? I was right before we actually when I first found the list, I was looking at some of these names, and there's some names in there I didn't even know. Like let's see here, Norman Smiley was released. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
There's a lot of
No,
different.
I didn't know that either. Absolutely didn't know
Right.
that.
I'll read off the list. We have Kurt Hawkins, EC3, Leo Rush, Carl Anderson, Hurricane Helms, Drake Maverick, Eric Young, Heath Slater, Luke Gallows, Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, Dave Finley, Pat Buck, Sean Devari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, or
Dark Angel? What'd they call her?
Oh, I'm blanking on her name. I know who you're talking about.
Sarita in TNA.
Sarita. Yeah. We have Lance Storm, Aiden English, Kurt Angle, Eric Rowan, the Cologne, Sarah Logan, Mike Chioda, Mike and Maria Kanellis, Zach Ryder, Noe Jose, Rusev, Deanna Perrazzo, MJ Jenkins, Josiah Williams, Norman Smiley, Serena Deeb, Ace Steele. Let's see. That's what's showing here. And then you had other names like Tino Sabatelli, Ty Conti, Cassius Ono. Let's see here. Those are Edgar Lopez, and the other names I think are just backstage.
Kurt Angle, Rusev.
Mhm.
I think he said
So-
Rusev.
Yeah, I said all those.
I'm saying it twice, damn it. It's Rusev
okay.
Day. It's Rusev Day today.
Miro Day, whatever you want to call it. Every day.
It should be said that not a lot of them, but some of them have been brought back. Like I think Nigel McGuinness was furloughed. I don't know if that was on your list. I'm pretty sure he
Yeah,
was
and
furloughed.
Josiah was definitely furloughed.
Yeah.
And then he got brought back recently.
There's a few other I can't remember. But yeah, there's
Hurricane.
stuff.
Shane Helms.
Yeah.
Shane Helms got released, and that's your cue, Joey.
Yeah, let me tell you, I spoke with Shane Helms, and I also spoke just recently with TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd, where Shane was on, the negative end of that list, where Tyson, he kept his job, and they both had the same responses, where it was like a miserable day where like no one knew what was happening. There was the people who were released or furloughed found out a little earlier than when everything was announced. And everybody found out just for the respect of it. But I asked TJ, how do you go about seeing like other how do you know it's not going to be you? That mindset, like think about how us as fans felt watching that all play out. But behind the scenes for them, like this is their livelihood. This is their job, their career. So they put food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
There was no head of the table then,
In a very tough time. Tough time to have a job. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know like how much of an effect it had on their bottom line, but I can't imagine it'd be significant enough to really, I don't know.
And some of them got text. Some of them got
Yeah.
texted, and then they got called. So like, imagine just like waiting to get a text. Like you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And kind of like, especially if you're on the bottom of that list, you're not being used in WWE. You're like, I'm probably getting the call next, or the text.
Yeah.
That's got to be an uncertain time. I will say the silver lining that I was reminding everybody of was that anybody that was released was getting paid until July 15th. I just remember reminding everybody like, hey, they're not like, they didn't just get cut and they're done. They're still at least collecting a paycheck. Not to say that that's any sort of consolation, but at least they can survive for a couple more months is my point while they try to figure it out. Like if I release Brandon today, like that's done. He's done. He's not getting paid a dime after that.
There's the bright spot, Kenny, we were looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost their jobs, but they're going to have a paycheck till July. Now, imagine being Mike Rotunda and realizing that Vince called Bray into the office and said, you can either choose your dad or your brother, but you can't have them both, and that Bray picked Bo over you.
Is Bo Dallas still there?
He's still there.
That's got to hurt a little
Still
bit.
there.
Where's Bo time?
Oh, and on that list also, which I didn't read because I don't think it was there, Curtis Axel was on that list as well.
Yeah. Curtis Axel.
I remember
I don't know
I
why that
had high
wasn't on
hopes
that
for
list.
Curtis Axel when he debuted, man. I really thought
We
he
all
was the
did.
next big thing.
We all did.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what he's doing now? Because I don't know if he's.
I know
I
a
don't
lot of
think
those
he's doing-
guys. A lot of those guys on that list ended up in Impact, like at the same time. But I don't think
Yeah.
Axel wasn't one of those guys. So I don't really know what he's doing. He seems like a guy
and-
that might be able to have other talents. So who knows if he even.
I mean, he also has like what 3 kids and a wife. I mean, if there's any time to just take it easy and kind of just chill out, it'd probably be this year. You know what I mean? I don't think he probably was on the rushing to get on the road. He is 41 years old. You know what I mean?
I didn't think he was that old.
And listen,
Yeah,
there were
he
names
is.
on that list.
Yeah.
There were names on that list that like we knew kind of were out the door, like the Kanellises, Rusev. They were asking for releases. There's people on that list that like it makes sense. But the one name that stuck out to me, and like I was pissed that whole day reading all those names. But then you have a name like Mike Chioda come up, and that was the one that set me off.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
if you look back, like this
a
guy,
long
like,
time. Yeah.
like you can't make room somewhere for this guy, like. Like it messed me up. That one messed me up really. Like,
So here's a Kenny for your thought. Had we not
I like it.
released Mike Chioda from WWE, we would not have got that moment in AEW with Mike Chioda. And is that not almost worth it to have that
Hey,
moment?
things
with
happen
him?
for a reason. They absolutely always happen for a reason. You know what I mean? If Brody Lee hadn't been granted his release, you know what I mean? You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, we might be saying, oh, look, Luke Harper never did anything.
Yeah.
he might have been on that list because we saw. Look at the people who Eric Rowan was on the list. He might have been on that list if he didn't get his release.
Absolutely. You know, and, yeah. Sorry.
Drake Maverick, and look at how that turned out for him.
Right.
Drake Maverick was actually the one that irritated me with wrestling fans, and it set me off because obviously they were booked into a corner because they had already announced him for this tournament, and then they said, you know what, you're still employed with us for 6 months. Fuck it, be in the tournament, okay? And he did well enough that they offered this guy a contract. They say, you know what, shit, stay with us. Here's your new contract for NXT, right? And people went off and said, oh, this is a slap in the face to everybody. They got fired. Was it a work? Was it this? And I was like, this is like the one part of wrestling Twitter and social media that I was like, just guys, can you fucking be happy that the guy got hired back for his skills? They didn't just hire him back for a storyline. They hired him back because he did well in the storyline enough that they were like, okay, we see potential in him.
He lost the match and still got the contract.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But let's play conspiracy theories. Anybody think it was a work on him?
Me?
100%.
I think
Anybody
so, yeah.
of intelligence think it was a work?
Oh, intelligence out. Like what?
I
tell you
don't
what,
think it was a work, but I will say if it was, I wouldn't have a problem with it because I
Yeah.
think something that gets lost with wrestling because it is so bogged down in this. Everyone knows it's not real, but we all want to treat it like it is real. Is you're telling stories. It's the same thing as if you're watching Law and Order SVU. And if it's okay to do on Law and Order SVU, it's fucking okay to do in wrestling. Like,
Right. And SVU is heavy stuff, man. Just like you were
Yeah.
saying, it is heavy stuff. And wrestling, to your point, Ritter, you bring up an amazing topic, which
Dude,
is
you're a smart dude.
a lot of people. Yeah, what the fuck, bro? I couldn't tell this from your misspellings and lack of punctuation on text, but.
my brain moves
Sorry.
so much faster than my fat fingers, man. That's not.
But you bring up a point, which is I feel like a lot of people forget that these are characters, and they tie people into their characters a little bit too much. So why can MJF go to Brody Lee Jr. and say fuck that kid, and that's okay? But then some people will give other wrestlers shit for maintaining a character. I mean, that kid's dad just died in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he literally is tweeting out, fuck that kid in character. But why is it that fans can accept that, but then they can't accept, I don't know, a heel Baron Corbin being Baron Corbin on Twitter?
Or let's talk about my favorite wrestler who had a big thing this year.
Jeff Hardy?
Motherfucking Jeff Hardy. Let's talk about that. And
Jeff
his
Hardy.
drunken escapade where
Hey,
he
whoa,
ran
whoa.
over my boy Elias.
Listen. No,
And then-
Ritter.
I
If
thought I
you
was
don't want an
drunk.
L added to your name, then don't fucking add an L to somebody.
Hey,
Turnabout's fair play, goddammit. No, everyone got upset. And I understand that there are people that suffer from addiction and suffer from alcoholism, and they look at that, but the way I looked at it was he's overcoming these,
Yes.
the way he's being viewed, the
Mhm.
negative things that are happening to him. He's fighting to overcome it. So it should be looked at as a triumphant story, not a dig at people who have alcoholism or addiction in their
Right.
lives who have suffered.
Sheamus represented demons. Like literally,
Yeah.
if you looked at Sheamus, he was supposed to be the red fiery demon of the storyline. Literally was him making fun of Jeff Hardy, just like people do behind someone who's an alcoholic's back. They don't. Mitch Hedberg says a really good. I don't know if anybody's a Mitch Hedberg fan. He says a really good line. He says, "Alcoholism is the only disease that you don't get sympathy for." And it's like, it's true. It is a disease. It is something that takes people over. And Jeff Hardy has come out on the other side. And I didn't like that a lot. To your point, Ritter, a lot of people were like, oh, well, how do we know he's not falling off the wagon? He's not going to fall off the wagon again. Then the storyline's going to spit in the face. And it's like, okay. And so are you implying that if he does fall off the wagon again, that he doesn't deserve the respect of this storyline? You know what I mean? Like, it's to your point that he's trying to overcome it. This is not a person who has beat it completely. He's actively every day going through this to try to put this behind him. That was literally the point of the storyline. And I had someone on social media, a girl said, well, I've seen the other side of addiction, blah, 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 blah. And, I don't know if I aired this on the podcast without going into full detail. I have a family member very close to me, battle alcoholism most of his life. I saw it firsthand. And so it was like, how dare you? Because it was like, if I can tolerate the storyline and I can see why they're doing it, how come you are allowed to go, well, I've seen it and you don't know what you're talking about? Because I lived it. Bluntly, it was a parent. It was my dad. I'll just say it because obviously I'm getting specific here. And there was a time period he's beat it. Now he hasn't had a drink in years. But when you're 7 years old, you walk downstairs and at 7 a.m. you hear it fucks you up. So again, I always said during that storyline, and I don't say that for sympathy. I say that for, if I can say I'm okay with that storyline, why were people offended by that?
Yeah, and Jeff Hardy had to sign off on it in some way.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
He was
There had
not
to be
in the
consent.
correct mindset, and if he didn't pass, they would not just put him in there. It's at the end of the day, that's their talent. They make money off of him. So if they're not going to put him into a situation where he's going to get himself taken off TV and get himself bring negative or bad rep to the company, so they checked themselves out and they made sure that he was on board with it. So I think that's a big thing that the fans are not picking up on.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't able to do that.
But yeah, it to the point, it's like you want realism and you want things that touch, strike a chord. The only way to get that is to do what I call kayfabe 2.0, which is to go with a real life scenario that actually offends people. Because you can't do that now. You do the Bobby Lashley Lana storyline from 2019. People go, I know Lana's married to Rusev. But what if there were legitimate rumors of Lana and Rusev breaking up and WWE had turned that into a storyline? Yeah. Would have been something completely different because we would have been like, wait, hold on. Is this real? Is this not? That's kind of what you want out of this.
I say something about that
with the Jeff Hardy. Yeah.
So me and my girlfriend watched wrestling together. We at least watched pay-per-views together. And it was literally like maybe 2 months ago. She looked at me and she was like, wait, Lana and Lashley aren't really together? So it's like, there's like, if you're like a casual watcher, you might think that stuff is real.
Exactly.
So
that is not where I thought that story was going whatsoever.
Do you think Lashley could come over and you could
see? That's what I was thinking. I thought you were like, "Hey, maybe we could have Kenny stop by, try this whole thing out."
I asked Brandon, and he said he was busy.
Call me Miro, whatever.
Brandon's a submissive middle,
Yeah. They have done an angle with. Oh my gosh, the New Jersey girl. Oh my gosh,
Snooki?
Carmella. Yeah, Carmella and
Christ,
Jersey girl. Come on, man. Carmella's Staten Island. What are you doing?
Staten Island. Jesus.
The funny part is I knew exactly who he meant when he was. I speak Brandon is really what just happened.
That's unfortunate.
He went Jersey girl. I'm like, he's got to be talking Carmella.
Carmella and Graves,
I would have
yeah.
said Deonna Purrazzo, right? If you said Jersey Girl.
Are you talking
Well, you
about
know.
the current story with Carmella and Graves and Carmella's sommelier / man lover?
Reginald?
Servant?
Reginald.
Reginald? Reggie
What's
from the
wrong?
block?
What's wrong with getting into that? Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. I think it's spicy. I like it.
Me too.
Spicy was the word that
I
you
now
used.
know what's on your Pornhub search history.
I got a question. Back to what we were just talking about, real life scenarios, playing out in WWE. I put out a tweet a few weeks ago asking people during Monday Night Raw, do you think that a COVID-related storyline would play out well in WWE?
No.
We're seeing it happen. Riddler,
No.
you said, you brought up before Law and Order. Law and Order are playing out COVID storylines. They have masks and Grey's Anatomy. People are dying of COVID on the show. These are all characters. Do you think that this could somehow be correlated with
okay,
a storyline?
so
Someone said
this
Sami
is-
Zayn could be the perfect one to, present it on TV as a heel. But
Oh, yeah.
everybody that answered was like, no, it's offensive. It's this, it's that. So I
That's the problem.
I want to get your opinions about it. Because
Well,
I don't
let me
know.
elaborate. Because yes, it is offensive, but let me tell you what the difference is.
Yeah.
In a Law and Order and in a ER type based show, obviously hospitals are dealing with this problem, but you also know that these are actors, right? WWE is a sports environment. And what's going on in sports right now is athletes are testing positive for COVID. There are athletes testing positive for COVID in AEW, WWE. So it would almost be a little bit too close to home because there is an actual possibility of wrestlers testing positive, in my opinion. But go ahead.
No.
Ready to pop off
You
here.
literally just contradicted yourself. You said it's
How
okay
so?
for Law and Order and other shows to parody something happening in real life with actual frontline workers, but actual athletes are going through this, and it's not okay for WWE to do it. How
what
is
I'm
that any
saying is
different?
that no, I'm saying it in terms of public perception. I'm not saying I'd be wrong with it. I'm just saying in terms of people will accept it on a scripted show, but they're gonna say WWE. They're gonna be like, oh, well, there were wrestlers that tested positive for this. Look, it's irresponsible of Vince McMahon. So I'm just thinking it would cause a PR nightmare. I'm not saying I'd actually have a problem with the storyline.
And see, that's where I agree with you. And to answer Sheamus's better looking younger brother's question,
Is that Brandon?
they would be able to yes, it's Brandon.
Okay.
No, they'd be able to do it, and I think they could actually do it well. But again, it's the toxic social media wrestling Twitter vibe that would automatically complain and cry and whine and try and cancel this whole thing and not be okay with it.
I want kayfabe 2.0.
Someone
I want it to be like, oh, does he really have the coup or not? I think
Someone
that would
used
be
the
awesome.
idea of it being like Sami Zayn, comes out with a mask and he does this whole COVID thing, and it gets him from competing in matches. That can kind of be the storyline that I was kind of talking to somebody about, and they said that's the only way that would be able to work. And then you have superstars like Daniel Bryan and other people who I don't know.
So,
if
okay,
it
so
would play out well.
let me elaborate because I actually missed something I wanted to say. The problem with doing a COVID-based storyline right now is that it's still too rampant in this country. So it would be irresponsible in the media sense because there are still people, hundreds of thousands, who are still being affected, hundreds and thousands who are dying and have died still. I know they have the vaccines, but there still is no official cure. There is still we're still being quarantined. We're still social distancing. So it almost feels like it would be too tender of a storyline now.
I have to agree with Fernando in the chat, by the way. He's talking about how Keith Lee lost 9 members of his family.
Right.
And
right.
I totally get it.
That's what I'm getting at. Is
Totally
Keith Lee's not going to accept that storyline. Working in a company that's making a storyline out of this, it's just a little bit too much, to do right now.
I mean,
now if in the 2022 Rumble, Sami Zayn comes out with a mask after everybody's back in the crowds are back, and he comes out with the mask like you're saying, and I'm not going to be in this because there's too many people in the ring. I don't want to touch everybody. Ha ha ha! Now it's funny.
However,
it's timing.
If he comes out with an El Generico mask and reforms his character from earlier in his career, then I think we're talking.
That's insensitive because El Generico died in a fire in Mexico.
That was
no, but
nail.
To me, I mean, it's just like a risk reward thing. Like, could they do a COVID storyline? Sure, but like, what's the benefit? Like, I mean, as Joey brought up, I think Sami Zayn could be a good person to do that with because it's kind of a chicken shit heel.
He
like
pretty much did that being away for 6 months. So I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. He's
Yeah.
still doing that, but without the COVID undertones. So it's like it's kind of unnecessary. It's an unnecessary risk, in my opinion, to kind of bring the COVID aspect into it.
What if they had used the COVID story not as if someone contracted COVID and got sick, but they had kept the belt on Sammy and Sammy refused to defend the belt because of COVID? And he would show up every week, he would wear his mask, but he would not go and compete because he did not feel it was health conscious.
Or here,
use that as a loophole out of the 30-day no compete.
I got the secret ingredient for to save Raw here, right?
Okay.
So the was it Omos, the big the bodyguard for AJ Styles,
who doesn't change his clothes, by the way?
Exactly. You get him away from AJ.
The drip's too wet. The drip's too wet. You can't change it.
Precisely. Get him away from AJ for a few weeks. Let people forget about him. Then you re-debut him as COVID. He's wearing a mask or whatever. He has like little things coming from his head or whatever. Call him COVID, and then he could be your top heel. And then have him.
Listen, I think the top heel in the company is 2020. I mean, everyone saw that video of Drew McIntyre kicking 2020's ass. So
that's the way to go. I think.
Fucking god awful.
By the way, I have to make a point to Hollis in the group chat.
Yeah,
writing that wrestling is an escape from what's going on, and if I think is the underlining thing here. Wrestling is an escape for all of us, and to see something playing out in real life that we are experiencing, I don't think it would work.
But then to Ritter's point, are we contradicting ourselves because we're okay with the Jeff Hardy storyline, which is happening to people, is a part of real life? It does hit home a lot. Or is it because it's a little bit more controlled, for lack of a better term? It can be hidden in a house more as opposed to COVID, where you could just go to the grocery store and contract it.
Let's be clear. The only thing to be upset about that Jeff Hardy storyline was the fact that man pissed 3 gallons of
That was my favorite segment of the year. I don't know about you guys.
People were focusing way on the wrong details there.
And it was like in 10 seconds too. It wasn't even.
Yeah.
He pissed out a whole thing of Twisted Tea.
Also,
Topical.
if you're being accused of running someone over, maybe beating the shit out of that guy isn't the right way to go about settling that dispute. Maybe try and help him find the real person that hit him with the car. I'm just saying.
You don't think
wasn't that storyline already like we figured out it was Sheamus? Didn't that happen?
Well, no, Sheamus set Jeff Hardy up, but I don't think we figured out that Sheamus.
No.
I'm
pretty sure I'm pretty sure it was said that it was.
They said it was Sheamus.
It was
where
Sheamus,
he had a red beard and red
hair and whatever.
You see, Ritter doesn't pay attention. You see, Ritter doesn't pay attention to the show, and then it says Vince McMahon's an idiot for the storyline.
Well, if he had made a better storyline, I would have paid attention, Kenny.
Here's another question.
Riddle me this.
Out of all the ways to bring back Elias, you start off again that storyline that happened like months before that everybody forgot about, or at least
what's wrong with that? I love continuity in professional wrestling. I like when 1993 when Marty Jannetty came back and because Shawn Michaels took him out. You know what I mean?
1993, bro. We're in 2021.
Were you even born then, Joey?
I was born that year.
Wow,
see?
That's awesome. Look at these babies.
Wow, the worst thing to happen to 1993.
I was also born in 93, so
wow.
Now let's rethink that.
Wow.
Look at that.
Wow, so maybe 1993 rivals 2020 for worst year in history.
Wow.
Since we're talking 2020, let's talk about Marty Jannetty confessing to fucking murder.
No,
yes.
It wasn't murder.
Allegedly.
Right? In 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, shit happened this year. I'm very overwhelmed.
Diddled by a strange man.
Multiple murders.
I remember Brandon reading it. I had to go. It was in the first time I had to take him to the back and finish him or something. I was like, wait, what? And then he tried to say it was a wrestling angle I was trying to shoot, brother. What?
I need you to rewind that entire sentence back from you finishing Brandon in the back and then him shooting.
That's what I heard.
I'm very confused. What's going on?
I was, you were talking about how, alcoholism is, it's a disease, and so is gambling. Like you gambling with Brandon coming over during this pandemic. So we're all praying for you. But no, again, you took him in the back and finished him.
Yes.
And then he shot.
Right? And he shot.
Getting shot.
Had incredible
Were
discipline.
you? Was he reading
He shot.
Marty Jannetty tweet while you were finishing him? Is this
Yes.
a
So
thing you
Brandon,
guys do?
How is this not
how
a
do you think
video?
I get him to come on this show?
Dude,
No, literally.
Pornhub.
How do you think I get him
All
to
in there.
come on this show?
Just text him Marty Jannetty tweets.
Just put a tattoo in the background, and then you got
Yeah, little
You're halfway
tattoo
there.
on in the
Anyone got that.
background.
I think that went over everyone's head.
all the things she
Come,
said.
come
I
on
got
the
it.
show.
You got it.
Thank you,
Believe me.
Joey.
I got it, Kenny.
Can you explain it to
The
me? I'm very
herpes?
stupid.
I got that from Kyle though.
You know, it's funny seeing
Yeah.
Brandon laugh and then the two girls behind him laughing at the same time.
Yes, they're loving it, bro.
Girls!
They
It
love
looks. Everyone looks so happy. But
That's
let's
the
go
most
back
women that have laughed at anything I've ever said at one time.
to. Can we go back to Double or Nothing? Because I want to talk about a criticism here.
Wait, we're talking about wrestling?
So, yeah, we're talking about professional wrestling, believe it or not. Was I the only one that thought that Double or Nothing? Was it Double or Nothing, Brandon? That I said was like might have been their worst pay per view.
Oh
the
yeah,
history of the company?
you weren't a fan. Yeah, you weren't. You
Was
were hating.
not happy with it. And I
No,
won't mention
wasn't
who,
either.
but some famous people in the wrestling business were in the crowd there for the first time. And I was texting and going, and I'm like, "This is your first show. How do you feel?" And they literally were like, "We're never fucking coming back."
Mm.
What was Double or Nothing? I
Because-
don't even remember what was on that card.
That was where
Nothing.
Matt Hardy got that concussion.
Yeah.
Was that not all
Every
in?
match, man. Every match had something.
No, All In was August. A Double or Nothing was May. So I'm pretty sure this was the May pay per view. Don't quote me on this.
I think the August pay per view was the bad one.
I think it was
Was it?
August because
Yeah.
Hardy got hurt and he was gone for like a month.
I'm gonna
Wasn't that
Google
long.
it.
Wasn't
I'm
Double or
gonna
Nothing
Google
the
it.
one that had the Stadium Stampede?
Yes.
I think it was.
Okay, yeah, you're right. No, you're correct. So it was All In. You see, the problem is 2020 is
All
just
In.
all wrapped up together.
Yeah, it all blends.
It's not an AEW.
I agree with that.
It's a
Because
2020 issue,
AEW was
100%.
so great.
It was so good in 2020, but no, everyone is correct. It was All In. And All In, it was just, I'm looking at the card right now, and it was
I
the
remember
first
watching.
half.
It wasn't good. It
What was the main event?
was Mox and MJF.
Okay.
That was it was a fine match, but like the pay per view just.
By the
seemed
way,
to drag.
were we saying All In this whole
Yeah,
time? It
it's
was
All
All
Out.
Out.
Yeah.
By the way,
All In was the first.
All In was
one.
the first one. Wow. Fucking wrestling podcast people, guys. This is what you're tuning in for. People who are experts in professional wrestling.
But
I'm just
this
trying to
is also
figure
a
out
really good
how-
point, though, because think about it, like what we were talking about before with WWE and AEW. You know, we are all people who have wrestling podcasts. This is what we cover, and we are like confused right now, and that's due to AEW. You know,
I
Right.
mean, I have a hard time keeping track of the months. So that's
You have a hard
my
time keeping
problem.
track of
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. I feel like so. You know, it's just part of the
look at his
course.
background. Everyone's laughing.
Brandon, what day is it today?
Who's president?
Oh wait, I think no. Trump is still president. Yeah,
That's
that's
president.
right.
I was
That's
impressed.
right. Yeah.
Brandon, do you have your license?
Stop the steal. I think I got a license somewhere in here.
All right.
I think get around here.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
It might take a while with all those pockets on his shirt.
Oh, what kind of cargo are you carrying there, B
Oh,
Dog?
this is not the green shirt.
Look at that. Look at this guy.
Why do you have it on you? I don't even know where my license is. I don't
Oh,
drive
man.
anywhere anymore.
Why do you have it on you like that?
It was in my pocket. You know, because I just
Whoa,
got out of
whoa, whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa! Kenny specifically said, "Take your pants off and get on the podcast." Why are you wearing pants?
Hey,
Yes,
boxers
true.
can have pockets.
Boxers
True, I
don't
did
have
call him and
pockets.
said-
We need to be able to see his face. It's going to cover the camera.
Joey,
Yeah,
if your boxers have pockets, I need to see them.
They don't.
Immediately.
Oh,
I promise they
But
don't.
going back to it, guys, because believe it or not, we're nearing like the 2-hour mark. Believe it or not, we're at about an hour and a half. I lied. An hour and a half right now.
guys.
So
1 hour mark was great.
yeah. So AEW All Out. It was All Out. I understand why it happened. We all complained that Big Swole versus Britt Baker, which by the way was basically a cinematic match. To Kyle's point, in the tooth and nail match in her office,
I
was
like
supposed
that
to be on the buy-in. Now, because of the bad press, because of the fan perception, they moved it to the main card. The problem, I feel, to me, started the event off wrong. They put it on as the first match. You do
Yep.
not put a cinematic match on first because yeah, exactly. The next match was, I think, was Jurassic Express versus
Young Bucks.
Young Bucks,
Yep.
and it was like, how do you not put that match on first?
I agree.
Because that match is definitely the match. As soon as that guitar riff hits for the Young Bucks, the whole place is going to come unglued.
And
And
it wasn't a
then-
last call to do that either. It was promoted like a day before.
Right. Right. They changed it. And then, again, do not start a pay-per-view cold. My opinion.
I was confused
I think
about that match, too. It was the most confusing match. I didn't know because there was no rules. They didn't elaborate on any rules. Like, how do you win that match? It was like a tooth extraction or something?
It was good. Don't get me wrong. I think it was good. But I think it should have been a little bit later to cool the fans off after a hot match.
I agree.
Simple as that. And then the Matt Hardy incident where the match got stopped. And then all of a sudden he started up again. And it was like, that was confusing.
Yeah.
And then was it Matt Sydal debuting and then falling? And then that. So it was just like one thing after another that just felt wrong about that pay-per-view.
It
But
felt
Ritter,
very like forced.
yes, it did. It felt like they were spinning wheels at a certain point.
I feel like at the beginning, it messed them up, and it just trickled down to the man.
Like Ritter in bed, he didn't get started off correctly, and then
No. You missed
out.
Start off hot, peter out,
Peter
and
out.
then finish strong.
Okay,
Dribble
see, Ritter
out.
gets it right. He doesn't start off with the cinematic match.
No, I'm like a WWE pay-per-view.
I was just gonna say that was, yeah.
Now, what is it that you have if you like dribble out?
What?
Serious.
Brandon,
You're asking
Well,
for a friend.
Brandon, that's a question for your doctor,
Oh,
not your dentist.
right? Please. No,
I don't like how eager he was to ask that because like it was like on his mind.
Yeah, me neither.
They're open. I know that. So
okay.
now.
No, actually,
let's
no,
fast
he's
forward.
right. Please DM Britt Baker right now and ask her
ask
He's
her.
more
what
fiber.
it is you have if it dribbles out.
So, speaking of dribble, the Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio storyline with Seth Rollins. I have no idea how that transitioned.
That was a great.
But that storyline throughout the whole summer.
It's been drooling.
Was I the only one that was actually a fan of that storyline, or what?
I loved it.
Wait, who's Dominic Mysterio?
Is there anything you don't
Yeah.
like but black people, Brandon? I'm very confused
Right.
here.
Seriously.
You know what I really liked about the story? I loved the love story between his daughter and Billy Murphy. That was really good.
Yeah, I was completely wrong on that. by
Billy
the way.
Murphy.
The one thing,
Buddy-
the one
Buddy
thing I
Murphy?
was.
What
Oh
was
no,
it?
he calls him. He calls him Billy Murphy.
Billy
yeah.
Murphy. Got it. Okay.
That was a great love angle.
Was Cedric the Alexander there?
The one with the
Cedric
8-year-old
the
dating
Alexander.
30-year-old? That makes sense.
But we'd be remiss if we don't talk about Rey Mysterio losing his eye
It's
during
cash.
that feud. During
Glad
that feud,
to announce
and-
that he is functioning properly now. It is back.
right?
Oh,
It was only subluxation. It wasn't a full removal.
Right.
It was
It
just
wasn't a full removal,
orbital
guys. It was still
subluxation.
attached. Exactly. And we thought that was the most ridiculous thing WWE was going to do this year, up until the Fiend got burned freaking alive.
It's something to say that like it was like what December
loved
when it happened,
No.
and we're watching. Or everybody's watching this, and then we're like, yeah, it sounds about right. That's how you end a pay-per-view.
They literally or figuratively basically killed off all of my favorite male superstars this year. Because that Rey Mysterio, Buddy Murphy,
Billy Murphy.
Seth Rollins story destroyed the career of Aleister Black to the point to where they don't even know what show he's on anymore.
Mhm.
They completely forgot about him.
Or
They thought he was on Raw.
You're one SmackDown superstar.
Yeah. And then they burned the Fiend alive on TV. So, yeah, no, literally or figuratively.
Let's go back. I think we missed something really major in February when the Fiend fucking lost to Goldberg.
No, that didn't
Super
happen.
Showdown.
We didn't
Didn't
miss
happen.
anything. We're not going to talk about
That
that.
didn't happen. Wait, what? Who?
That was non-canon.
Dude, that's how I actually treated Super
It wasn't
Showdown.
on
I was like,
American soil. It didn't happen.
wow. Look at that. You hear this guy? Got Trump Jr. over here saying it. If it didn't happen on,
Profile here, but
if it didn't happen on American soil, it never happened.
Well, you didn't like Undertaker winning the fucking Albuquerque tournament title or whatever it was called?
The Albuquerque tournament.
What was it called?
a trophy and just walked away and didn't take it. I don't understand.
Hey,
I actually am
Longest
happy
reigning
that
champion.
segment happened because I'm like, obviously hindsight being 2020, we didn't actually get AJ Styles versus Undertaker in a match. At least we got to see them in the ring, and like AJ Styles got to take a bump from the Undertaker. Like I was like, okay, cool. Like that was like their one match, and then they had a cinematic match.
This is the same show that they released Ricochet, right? Is that the same show? Brock Lesnar like pretty much just ate him there.
when he
That was very
basically made him a
strange.
skid mark on the ring after the match.
That was a weird
Yeah.
move.
Ricochet has not been the same ever since he switched to shorts, and literally that was the first match he wore the shorts.
Yeah, yes. Good eye, Kenny.
Too
No,
much
Ricochet.
glutes, no push.
Yeah. Ricochet enjoys a bit of the glute play.
Oh, sweet mother of God!
Yeah.
How do
Well,
you
we're at
know that?
We're at that portion of the show, guys.
Wasn't that? That I thought that was a major thing of the year, right? No, or did that happen?
No, I mean it did, but why are we
Oh.
talking about Ricochet's leaks? Please, for the love of God,
Yeah.
Brandon, I'm gonna leak your phone if you don't stop.
Okay.
Then again, I might send you to jail for a while. There,
Someone in the chat,
but
Goldberg winning caused the world to stop.
I think so. I think once Goldberg won the Universal title, and once Shayna Baszler bit Becky Lynch, I think it was all downhill from there.
What a weird
Maybe
time.
Becky was the one. Shayna was the one who spread the. Who knows?
Right. That was she was the fucking bat.
That's the origin of that's the monkey fucking a person origin of COVID. Is that how AIDS started? I haven't researched it.
I'm just excited for Monday Night Raw, Legends Night. We've never seen that before.
Carlito.
Boogeyman on Raw, guys. Ratings. Boogeyman.
Yes.
Hey,
Hey,
you know, guys,
Yeah.
let's try. We got a lot of points that I actually want to make. So let's start like wrapping this thing up. I just briefly will say Dominic Mysterio. The whole point of bringing him up, I think he had a hell of a career in 2020.
Where'd he go?
He stepped up to the plate. I don't know what the hell's going on with them now,
Never came back.
but but he stepped up to the plate big time, especially when his dad got injured and they started slotting him into matches after the fact. So kudos to him, man. He's got a hell of a future in the wrestling business.
Hard
Killer,
to come back from your mommy and daddy walking you to the bus stop every week.
Exactly.
I know that meme with the backpack. But again, just because there's so much major topics, you said can't forget about Cross. We'll skip Karrion Cross. He had a really good rise, but he did get injured. Just because I have some major points. The rise of Drew McIntyre in 2020, and I don't think any other champion could have carried us through the COVID era because, my opinion. He said it, but this is my opinion. He knows what it's like to get kicked when he's down, and be given like. Think about the fact that he was supposed to have this big WrestleMania moment, and then it happens in a closed set with like 4 people in the whole stadium, like a camera guy, maybe more than 4, but a couple camera guys, the announcers, and the 2 guys in the ring and the referee. Like, that's crazy to go from 80,000 screaming people. I would have been one of them. Brandon would have been sleeping. It would have been great. To this moment where, he says he broke the 4th wall. And at WrestleMania, he looked at the camera and he said, "Thank you." And he said if he felt it was the right thing to do, and it absolutely was. He thought it was going to get cut in post, but they kept it. I think just having the wherewithal to do stuff like that, that's why Drew McIntyre was the right guy. And maybe that's why we got it the way we did. Because, hypothetically, I don't know, The Fiend was champion still. Let's just say The Fiend, right? Just for all shits and giggles. As good as Bray Wyatt is, would he have been that guy to make us feel hopeful? To make it, you know what I mean? Like, no. But Drew McIntyre gave us like that, like hope of that like strong guy that's been kicked down, but he overcomes adversity, things like that. What the fuck are you gonna say, Ritter?
I wasn't going to disagree with you. I agree with you on the point of Drew McIntyre, and I think a lot of people were very unfair to Drew McIntyre this year and saying, his run was boring and this and that, and take the belt off him. I saw a lot of that on Twitter. But I will say The Fiend would have entertained us. He may not have been the guy to give us hope, but he definitely would have entertained us as champion. But no, Drew was fantastic. Drew, JR called it, said Drew would be champion by this WrestleMania. He did it. He took it. And he's really done everything he could as champion to make himself feel like that top-level guy, the guy.
Right. And I was actually discussing this with Brandon of like, he gives me that feel, that Rock, that Austin, Triple H, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. He gives me that feel, right? That like I get erect, thinking of Drew McIntyre.
Mm-hmm.
But Drew McIntyre really seems like that megastar, right? Like we've been missing. Okay, the only other guy that fits that mold, Go ahead, Ritter. You want to make a joke there?
No.
What you got for us?
That
I'm
fits
sorry.
that.
You were talking about looking like a superstar, and I was just looking at Kyle.
Aww.
I was gonna undo buttons for the podcast. I forgot.
Oh yes.
Kyle,
Get some chest.
I just want to know, how is the clearance aisle at the Baby Gap?
Wow.
Very good.
Bro.
Very empty. Very empty these days.
No.
The question is,
He's very early '90s rock right now.
I'm going
Right.
for him. Very Kurt Cobain.
He looks like if Mike Shinoda got run over by a bus.
The fuck is that? How old are you?
Wow.
Lincoln Park, Mike Shinoda.
Oh,
Dad.
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I can't be mad or sad about that.
That was one Linkin Park singer away from being a really dark joke.
Horrible. He looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter's ass.
Is that bad?
I don't know. I was just like, it's the most random thing that came to my mind.
I just realized
Oh,
that
Drew McIntyre.
ass.
Speaking of ass, Drew McIntyre.
Getting back to Drew McIntyre, you were saying, Joey.
Drew McIntyre, the reason why, besides the fact that everyone knows his story from way back when, the reason why he is so popular right now is because his push, if you want to use that terminology, was organic. This guy was in a rivalry, sort of say, December, January with Randy Orton, where Randy Orton was the face. McIntyre was the heel. This is when he just finished things with Ziggler, and I don't know what was happening. And he was getting cheered by the crowd. Like, this was...
They wanted it, yeah.
They wanted it. And from there, it was just a gradual... It wasn't like Randy Orton comes out one night, RKOs someone, now he's a heel. It was like a gradual... I don't know, thing with the way he spoke to the crowd, right. McIntyre. That's when he started the 3-2-1 Claymore thing.
They took the chains off.
It took the yeah, exactly.
They let him be himself, and I think that's a representation of.
It was an organic face turn, and
yeah,
that guy is so strong right now that I don't think whoever wins the Royal Rumble, and if they choose him, I don't think the title comes off of him just yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I was convinced. I was convinced that the reason they gave Randy Orton the title was to let Drew McIntyre win the Rumble again. I had got convinced of it because I was like, they know that he's the only guy, but now maybe I'm like, okay, they put the title back on him. I feel like now they said, okay, maybe a SmackDown superstar is going to win the Rumble because, again, it's just who do you match up with McIntyre? You know, the only person, again, getting back to my point, Drew McIntyre's up here. The only person in WWE that matches that level that McIntyre's on is Roman Reigns. So let's get into Roman Reigns right now because did we all just like switch up? What just happened there?
You just switched with Ritter. I don't know what happened.
Well, we just switched positions. Hold on. Was the sex getting boring? Oh, okay. There we go.
I'm tired. I don't know who it was, but we don't have to talk about that.
I can explain to you what happened. I was waiting my turn, and there's a little button over here in the chat that says raise hand. So I raised my hand.
Oh, we're raising hands now.
It swapped for you guys. It didn't swap.
We were swapping spit.
Is this an Impact Media call? I don't even click the.
I might get heat for saying it. Save the best for last, huh?
Oh my God! Don't even go there.
Inside joke. But go on.
I wanted to let you finish.
You always want me to finish. I noticed that.
Brandon said.
What I was going to say was, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go.
Are you guys confident that Drew McIntyre will be champion going into WrestleMania and it won't be The Miz?
Good point. Because I can, but I would say yes, I'm confident only because it's like, how do you have McIntyre lose twice? Because he lost it to Orton, and then if he loses it again in the Money in the Bank situations, like what can you really do with him? I don't know. Who knows though? Honestly,
how do you make the Miz the biggest heel in the company again?
You give him the title off of Drew McIntyre.
No. You split Miz and Morrison first of all.
That's the first thing you do. But you have Keith Lee win the Royal Rumble. You get McIntyre and Keith Lee at WrestleMania. Whoever wins, the Miz cashes in and wins, and steals that Mania.
I don't hate that.
Yeah, I don't hate it either.
I don't hate it at all.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Kenny, to your point, you can't like you could say, what does that do for Drew if he loses again? But what would it do for the Miz if he lost the Money in the Bank again? Like he just cashed it in, got it back, and he's going to lose it again. We pass this thing around like.
But can everyone agree with me that the Miz is the one guy that he can take as many losses as he possibly can and still be the Miz? He's at that point in his career.
Dolph Ziggler.
No. Not
I
at
agree
all.
with you, Kenny.
Not at
The
all.
only thing holding him back right now, and it's really weird to say because it goes for him too. The thing that's holding the Miz back right now is John Morrison. Just like the only thing holding
I agree.
John Morrison back is the Miz.
Is John right?
Yep.
They are. I was
Not
watching.
even a tag team. They are in no tag team storylines. They don't go against any tag teams. They are not a legitimate tag team on Monday Night Raw. They are just each other's lackey. I don't know what to call it. Yeah.
So they, to your point, I was watching the 2008 Royal Rumble, and the two of them came out back to back, and I was like, yeah, that's when they were together and it felt right. Now it's just like they're completely different points in their career.
It's forced.
Yet they're trying to play these characters right from 2008 where they're all like preppy boys and stuff. Like they're married, they're older men now.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to see that from them necessarily.
And make a video and then reference their kids. Like it just doesn't match anymore.
I've hated
Right.
everything Miz and Morrison
It-
this entire year. The pranks on
Me
Braun
too.
Strowman, all of it.
It should have been a novelty act that lasted a month at the most.
But can we all agree? Okay,
Just segue Morrison back into the storyline, and then you have Miz turn on him, and you do the storyline there. And
but
then
can
they're
we
both
all agree?
elevated.
Can we all agree? Okay, so that people know we're not burying these guys. I would love to see the Miz by himself. I would love to see John Morrison by himself. It's not necessarily the athletes we have a problem with. It's their association with each other. It's
Right.
kind of like I love Triple H. I love Shawn Michaels. I've said this before, but I hated DX. It like the campy DX storyline. And Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler.
Oh no, I love that shit. And I personally, I didn't.
I'm talking
watch
about
Lucha
06 and
Underground.
on.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. The Vince loves Cox. I thought it was great.
No, I didn't.
I liked it.
I didn't watch Lucha Underground. I didn't watch Impact, so I don't really have an opinion one way or the other on a John Morrison singles run. Like, okay, cool, he was back for me, but I didn't care either way. I would like to see the Miz from that Daniel Bryan Miz feud when Daniel Bryan was the GM. That Miz, which we got a little bit of recently in a promo. I'd like to see that singles run Miz, but
Agreed. I agree
Welcome to
completely.
SmackDown.
But going back to it, because I tried to segue us, but everybody still wanted to blow their load on the Miz and Morrison. Roman Reigns coming back in August. So just to recap with everybody here, supposed to face Goldberg at WrestleMania, did not happen due to his former leukemia diagnosis. Felt it irresponsible to be at that WrestleMania, especially after a couple people came down with COVID. So he ended up missing that Mania, staying away from everything, getting a couple nice veneers put in,
Beautiful.
coming back in August. And I remember arguing with people at the end of SummerSlam when he came back in that Fiend versus Braun Strowman match and did what he did, destroyed everybody, showed up in what's the shirt? Go up and wreck everyone. Or,
Yeah.
so he does that. And everybody was like, oh, Roman Reigns is back. He seemed kind of heelish, but you know how WWE is. And I was like, no, that was a heel turn. That was 100% a heel turn just because he's so good, right? The mannerisms he had in his face were so much more aggressive than they had been previously.
I wasn't
To the point. But my point is, I just literally looked at his face and said, he's a heel. There's no doubt in my mind. And sure enough, from there on out, he was heel.
Yeah.
But here's a guy who's probably having the best run that he's possibly had in his career. And silver lining, I mean, this is all due to COVID. All due to COVID.
I don't
Go
know.
ahead, Ritter. What are you going to say?
no, I want to let Joey go because this may be a thing between me and you. So I'm going to let Joey go first.
I don't know if COVID is the reasoning why Roman is in the position he is. It definitely helped elevate him. But I think the plan all along was for Roman to be in the spot. Maybe not as a heel, but maybe
That's my point. No, so to summarize, I was talking about him being a heel was due to COVID.
Okay.
Not his spot, but the fact that we're getting this heel run is because of COVID. And it was just like an organic thing that they went with because he did go away. Because I don't think it was the game plan for him to turn heel.
I read that he requested if he comes back, he wanted to be heel.
To your point, exactly. When he comes back, now he had the ear of Vince and saying,
Exactly.
"Okay, I'm coming back. This is the time to do this." Because sure, they could have had this conversation if he was on TV.
Sometime, even if it wasn't 2 years from now, we would have seen a Roman Reigns heel turn.
Eventually, I think so. But I feel like, let's say if we had a normal era where COVID didn't happen and he did wrestle at WrestleMania, if he had gone to Vince and said, hey, I want to turn heel at SummerSlam, Vince would have said, no, you're our biggest guy. Why the hell would we do that? But COVID loosened up the heels, the heels, you hear me? Loosened up the reins, no pun intended, to be like, all right, let's take a chance. Go ahead. Let's do it.
That I agree with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they had a plan beyond WrestleMania with Reigns and
Right.
Goldberg. So who's to say that he wouldn't have turned heel eventually? I mean, nobody knows. Even WWE probably doesn't know.
So you all can look me right in my eyes and say that Vince would have turned him heel in a normal circumstance in 2020.
He could have.
I'm not convinced of it.
I completely
because
disagree.
How popular was he before? That's like, if you think about like
So-
Roman before, he was
I'm
getting
glad-
booed, like, I don't know.
Joey, I'm
Go
glad
ahead,
you brought
go.
that up because that is the whole point that I'm making here. So we're going to jump back a couple weeks. Kenny did a podcast. Kenny and I from the comments, not here able to use my voice, had a debate about Keith Lee and what they were doing with Keith Lee. And we ended up agreeing on some things. But my point was, I didn't like what they were doing with Keith Lee because I felt Vince had a view of what he thought Keith Lee should be. And I didn't think Keith Lee needed to be changed, that he was fine the way he was. Roman Reigns in, I think it was 2015, fresh off the Shield, went into that Royal Rumble and lost and then got injured. Everyone was behind him. When he came back, Vince made him that
That
John
was 14.
Cena asked.
So 14 that happened because
Yeah.
15 was the one where he got booed out of Philly like crazy.
Yes. So, and that's my point. Vince tried to make him into that top babyface, that next John Cena that all the kids are going to love, and people fucking hated it. But it's what Vince thought was right because that's how Vince saw Roman. Just like this is how Vince sees Keith Lee, whether it's right or wrong. Now you give us the Roman Reigns that we had coming out of the Shield, who was quiet, who was aggressive, who was angry, the guy that we wanted to root for in 2014. They brought him back, and now everyone, heel or not, is enjoying his work. And it's fantastic, but it's not what Vince saw him as. It's not what Vince wanted. And that was my point with the Keith Lee thing was Keith Lee was great. People loved him. Vince wanted him to work a big man style and be more aggressive and less of the Keith Lee that we knew and stripped a lot of those things away. It may not work for Keith
But you
Lee.
see, when you verbalize it now, it's not through text and you verbalize it. I can agree with what you're saying. I can agree with what you're saying here. But to your point, you actually said something that is kind of exactly what I'm saying. John Cena has never turned heel because Vince said, this is what we're doing. What I'm saying with Roman Reigns is if we didn't have the whole world stop, we would have never gotten a Roman Reigns heel turn because Vince would have been adamant enough to say, we are running with this Roman. But
Well, at that point,
when
I
you
agree.
have,
Yeah.
so when you have, to me, I think it was just, again, a perfect storm. You had a strong babyface in Drew McIntyre, you know what I mean? Like a company guy in Drew McIntyre that he was built up. So now Vince is like, all right, we got a guy that kind of replaced Roman on the babyface end of things. Why not bring him back as a heel? So again, it's just a perfect storm of a lot of things that happened. My opinion.
Sorry,
yeah.
my misspelling and lack of punctuation didn't convey that point properly.
All right, you're getting all hot and bothered. It's okay. It happens.
I was also too busy staring at your lips, but that's neither here
Who
nor
is?
there.
I think
Through
we can all
text, of course.
agree that we are enjoying
No.
shirtless Roman.
No.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew it.
I think that's
Everybody is.
really
I
the silver
completely forgot
lining.
Brandon
Yeah.
was here until he said something.
I know. It's true. It's how I am at when I'm watching wrestling because he falls asleep and he's just sitting there. But anyway, getting into the AEW side of things, I think because we have a couple. I think to me, AEW stole the show towards the end of the year, my opinion. Let's go right for the jugular here. The debut of Sting, December 2nd. Who saw that coming? I know there were rumors of Sting going to AEW and his merchandise being taken off of WWE shop and things like that, but I don't think anybody in their right mind tuned into that episode and said, you know what, tonight's the night Sting's debuting.
No, it was definitely a thing that was like kind of passively in the background of some people's minds. Nobody turned into that episode and was like, yeah, Sting's debuting now. But I think it had been rumored for months and weeks enough to the point where, at least for me, when Sting debuted, it was still an awesome moment. But it was like, okay, yeah, he's in AEW. It didn't seem like as like crazy as it probably could have been had those rumors not been out.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree because I was shocked. I was
And there were so many things that were happening that could have went to that. Like months ago, Jericho coming out with the bat. People were like, "Oh, Sting's
Right.
coming." Sting's
Right. There
coming.
were hints.
That was during the summer.
Darby-
Jericho was out with the bat. So
Darby Allin being in the stands. You
And
know,
then-
there were little things. Yeah.
Wow. And it's like, oh, maybe he's not coming. And then right when it left our minds, it's Sting.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like they did things, and then it was like almost like, were we reading into stuff too much here? Because we saw these things and they didn't actually happen. Darby going up in the stands, things that are reminiscent of Sting, and then sure enough, he just shows up. And that was the moment I said, "Oh, AEW's not playing around." And then Shaq shows up that same night. Again, we'd be remiss to not talk about this moment. Is the moment that Kenny Omega turned heel. Who saw this one coming too? It was like the way they built that was perfect to me because they had Don Callis there for a couple weeks, almost doing like a guest commentary spot. So you weren't all of a sudden like, why is Don Callis there? You almost had gotten used to him being on commentary. And then all of a sudden, they pulled the trigger on a Kenny Omega heel turn. And then he says, see you on Tuesday.
That was the biggest shock of that was even
Shocker.
Sting.
I feel like the Kenny Omega heel turn had been telegraphed from the point that they lost those tag titles. So I really felt like they were going with Kenny Omega as a heel.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they decided to change directions and go with Hangman as the heel, and then change directions after they lost tag team titles and switch that over for whatever reason. That was definitely telegraphed. I will say this: Sting was great. We're not going to talk about that awkward joke / story I told the chat about Kenny that got no response whatsoever. We'll
go for it.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So
remember, I was listening to your podcast.
Please tell it again.
You were talking about how you were decorating the Christmas tree with your daughter, and you saw the Sting thing, and you ran in the room and turned it on right away because Sting is a draw. Sting is a draw, and you were really pushing that home. And I said in my head when you told that story, I envisioned like Looney Tunes where you ran away and your daughter was just like hanging in the air with an "oh shit" sign. And like everyone knows sold me in the chat now.
Yeah, everybody turned on Ritter like look, right then and there.
Kyle left. He said, "Fuck this, I'm not doing this again."
Yeah, look, Kyle's gone. AEW, I think has hit the nail on the head with what they're doing now. A lot of people, I think they're like, "Oh, why are they bringing in celebrities and doing stuff?" And I'm like, "Aren't they supposed to grow the audience? How do you grow the audience? Bring in people that people know." So, I mean, I don't see I don't have a problem with what they're doing. I think AEW's, for the most part, again, obviously there's stuff to critique is my point, but I think in terms of growing the company, I think they're hitting it out of the park. So
I think the biggest thing here, like what we're talking about right now with AEW in a sense versus WWE, AEW I feel like is very much in tune with their audience. So they see, oh, the fans are talking about this online. Well, maybe we should play into it. You know, maybe that's where that turn came from, where Adam Page and Kenny Omega.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, they're very much in tune with their social audience.
Yes. So, and to me,
WWE is not necessarily like that. WWE is like Vince is going to do what he wants to do, and you know, that's kind of it.
So to Ritter's point, I know he said it was telegraphed, but that's where I feel like they did a good job, because to me it was like it wasn't telegraphed as much as they were giving like teases of like, oh, this person's going, this is happening, and then it kind of went, okay, it's not happening, because they keep teasing it and it's not happening, so it'll never happen. So when they finally did pull the trigger, it was like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming, because I thought that, you know, it had gotten stale almost.
Here's the biggest
Sasha bailing you.
Sasha bailing me, correct. Which we'd be remiss to just, you know, we don't have a lot of time, but I will say Sasha Bailey, I think, don't get enough credit for their run in 2020, because they dominated all three shows.
They will
dominate
in a few years when other people are doing the exact same storyline, and you look back to 2020 when Sasha Bailey did it. It's gonna be things how we talked about WrestleMania that last year, like, oh, that happened, and that was the first time, and that was really freaking good, you know.
It had no business being as good as it was, and that's what I'm saying. Especially with no crowd, no this, no that. They did an amazing job, and I don't think wrestling community gives them a lot of credit for that. Especially Hollis in the chat. She's gonna go off right now about how much she hates Bailey and Sasha. So I'm gonna throw her under the bus right now. But yeah, getting back to AEW, it's just
Kenny,
I almost don't want to.
Regarding
Go ahead,
that,
yeah.
Did you really think, or anybody here, did you think that when that match of Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley for the world title, did you think that it would end in a clean finish?
No, I didn't even think Kenny Omega was winning.
I 100% thought Kenny was winning.
I thought Kenny
I did
was
not
winning.
think it was clean.
Yeah, I didn't.
The only way you can take off the title from Moxley, look at the year Moxley's had. This guy choked out Brody. He choked out, I mean, literally everybody. He just dominated the entire year. The only way you take that title off him is with a finish like what we saw, and Kenny Omega was the perfect fit to do it.
Yeah,
No,
I think they did it
Made
right.
sense.
I'd be the opposite of you, Joey. Is whereas I defended Drew McIntyre's run in 2020,
Yeah.
I did not enjoy Jon Moxley's run. I felt like they definitely could have booked him better.
I didn't either. I actually agree with Ritter, believe it or not.
I agree with you. He was very dominant because he didn't lose, and his wins were extremely strong. Like I said, he choked out Brody Lee, and that was when Brody Lee was first pushed, like with the Dark Order. Like that was that loss for Brody makes sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they were just
Right.
Lance Archer, boom to the top.
Yeah, and I almost don't want to touch this subject.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to touch it, but I guess, in wrapping up, I think we got to. Let's talk about Brody Lee and his debut in AEW in March, which when he was, I think we all expected. I think we all expected him to be the Exalted One, half of us at least, and I think the other half expected it to be Matt Hardy.
I thought it was going to be Matt
And so it was like, I think it was a split, but ultimately, in hindsight, I think they made the right decision. I think Brody Lee being a member of the Dark Order, it propelled him because it was the first time we got to see him in a leader role as opposed to being one of the lackeys. And Brandon can attest to this, he was my favorite Wyatt family member. I used to love Luke Harper, and I used to say,
you thought they were going to do big things with him, yeah.
I was like, that's the breakout star of the Wyatt family because they are, they don't know that they have a star, but he has it in him. And they never gave him the chance, for whatever reason. Mainly, I said WrestleMania 33, which Brandon and I went to. Why wasn't he in that match with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton?
I was going to bring that up. They had that on a silver platter, and they had that Luke Harper and Randy Orton had a great match at, was it Elimination Chamber or Fastlane or whatever that pay-per-view was.
Yeah, right.
He was definitely ready for it, and it would have made sense in the story. And it's like, you don't need to give him the title, but his presence in there, I think, especially in hindsight, when we know how that match panned out, it was a very lackluster, flat match.
You had the projectors of the snakes and the worms. Come on, now.
That's a good point. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, that's a good point.
I like to see wiggly things on the mat a lot.
I know you do.
Wasn't there some sort of match where it was a battle royal and it was a draw between Luke Harper and somebody else, and the winner was getting the title shot? Am I just
possible?
No. They did that. I think that's also why we had a problem with it, because they seemingly were kind of pushing him.
They were pushing him into that storyline, and they just
into that storyline, and then for whatever reason they dropped it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know, again, we can speculate, but is it that the writers were like, okay, we're going to put him because it makes sense. And then Vince was like, nope, bam, cut it off right there because I don't want him at WrestleMania.
Well, interesting.
You could speculate.
I listened to that Talk is Jericho podcast with Luke Harper like a while back. And it was very clear that Vince kind of saw Luke Harper as like a country bumpkin kind of guy. And I feel like he didn't have much of a vision beyond like where he was in the Wyatt family, which is unfortunate because obviously now that we've seen what he's been able to do with the Dark Order, he had so much more potential beyond that. So, but I feel like that's
I saw it. That's kind of what Brandon could tell you. I used to always say like, oh man, like I don't know what it is, but I see that intangible with Luke Harper because it's just like he gets it. He's the guy that like, right when the camera would cut to him, he'd always have the correct face and he'd always be doing something. And you knew Bray was going to be a star. But Wyatt was, Luke Harper was stealing the show some of the times.
Let me tell you, there was a Monday Night Raw where there's very few that the show goes off air and I'm in chills. And I remember it was November 2014. The show and Raw ended, it was right before Survivor Series. The show ended with Stephanie McMahon, Triple H in their office. They were the Authority at the time. And Ziggler gets thrown in there and he's laying on the ground. And then the camera goes up and it's Luke Harper. And he was the last member of the Authorities team for Survivor Series. And I remember, that was it. I was like, oh, my God, this guy's going to be a star.
It's a star, right?
He said, I don't know what he said, but he said something, and I got chills, and I was like, this is them saying that this guy is going to be a huge star.
Yeah.
And then he had that.
He returned. He wasn't on TV at all. He had just come. That was his return.
And they had that IC title run right after that, right? It was very short lived.
Think about
that IC title run with Dolph, the ladder match with Dolph that he had is one of the most underrated ladder matches because Luke Harper, being the size that he was, had no business flying into ladders and diving off of stuff the way he did in that match. And it was like, that was one of those matches where you go, you know, he didn't have to do what he did, but he wants it so bad that he's willing to show the office that he belongs in the upper echelon. And so the ladder match was the one where I went, okay, there's no way they can deny him now. Still found a way.
Yep.
Yeah. But, you know, let's go back to 2020. Let's go back to 2020. Obviously, you know, he was released from WWE. He debuts in AEW. And I'm going to come out and say it. I've said it on the podcast. I hated his character at first because they went too long with the Mr. McMahon parody stuff to me. And so at first it was like, okay, the first week, 2 weeks they did it, cool. But then it was like little jabs, and it was almost like, oh, like the way I looked at it, I was like, I don't want him to be reduced to being disgruntled former WWE superstar. And sure enough, the internet was kind of saying like, oh, look, you see, everybody's the formula AEW. You just go there and you shit on Vince McMahon. But they had the wherewithal. As soon as I made that statement, they changed his character. He started showing more personality on BTE. He started doing some other stuff. And I think BTE, to me, saved his career. BTE is what really got people behind him. And fast forward, probably the biggest moment in his career was that Saturday Dynamite. Because I remember watching the NBA game, and I'm like, okay, crap, Dynamite's not coming on. But I was so excited to see Brody Lee versus Cody Rhodes for the TNT title. Who in their right mind saw that squash coming? Nobody. Cody Rhodes was built as Mr. AEW, like Triple H 2002. You know what I mean? Like the guy in AEW. You know he's behind the office. So raise your hand. Fucking Ritter raising his hand. Go ahead.
No, I want you to finish. I raised my hand so you can finish, but know that.
Raise it in the chat. Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Oh, no, actually, he's just doing a Dark Order sign. It's really
there we go.
That's really what he's trying to do.
Respectful.
Finish your point.
So when that squash happened, I feel like on the Chappelle Show segment, you know, the wrap it up. If y'all have seen Chappelle Show,
I'm aware.
Nobody. Wow.
I got you. I'm with you.
It's like Ritter making a joke in the chat. But but that was the moment I said, I'm so happy he went to AEW because he's a star now. He was made after that moment. But you were saying, Ritter.
I think it's been very clear that I'm not as high as a lot of people are on AEW, as we've talked about this. But I'm going to say some really nice things about them, mostly with Brody Lee. Now, I'm on the opposite end of the fence with you. I loved all of the Vince, like from week one through it, all of the quote-unquote Vince McMahon parody shit. I was entertained by it. I didn't look at it as, oh, they're just taking, like, I thought it was funny and entertaining, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. Like, even though I looked at it as he's making fun of Vince, it never got to the point to where it was too much or it bothered me. I personally didn't watch BT. I will say Brody Lee, that character, him taking the Dark Order, which I didn't see because, again, I was under the impression it was going to be Matt Hardy. And I saw the Dark Order as more of a joke than a serious group. So him taking it over and making it more serious was great.
So you actually, okay, so this is where we go diehard AEW versus casual AEW, because I think this is why I had a problem with it at first. It was not necessarily the Knox. Before Brody Lee came in, the Dark Order was a very serious group. Like, to the Evil Uno, you don't think so? Uno,
I mean, from the second they debuted, I was like, these guys are fucking jokes. From the second
you thought that. But the Join the Dark Order stuff, they had a very creepy vibe. There was no, like, Joe King, per se, in their characters. There was a cult atmosphere. So when Brody Lee came in, it was very what?
Like The Purge.
Right. It was very dark, no pun intended, but it was very dark. And then Brody Lee came in, and it was, like, hokey all of a sudden. And that was the problem. I was like, I don't want Brody Lee to be hokey. I want him to be like Luke Harper. I want him to be, like, scary. And he was the perfect fit, but now he's going in this direction. I'll admit that I was wrong because somewhere along the way they kind of fine-tuned it, and they were able to do this kind of cross where BTE, they were so funny. And I always thought it was like a nice Easter egg of like they were hilarious on BTE, but then they'd come out on TNT and they would be like very dark and cult-like and stoic. And then like you almost knew like behind the scenes, if you watch BTE, it was almost like your joke, like, haha, like I know that they're really funny guys. So you were able to get behind them in a different way. But then to Ritter's point, talking about taking it serious, that's kind of my point of why that squash match was so important, because they had been joking around, they'd been doing this stuff, and then it was like, bam, it all stopped, and it was the most serious group right there on TV, at least, where it was like you were taking them seriously now, and it was such a powerful moment for Brody Lee.
How about that moment when they destroyed Cody Rhodes, Dustin, and even Brandy all on the stage?
Yeah, right after that match. That was right after that match.
Standing over them, and they just devoured everybody. Like,
right, they ate up the whole roster right there. They ate up the whole Nightmare family, and it was such symbolism. And then it's just sad to think that that was like one of the last couple matches he had. In hindsight, you know, the promo he cut, probably like the best promo of his career. Remember, Brandon and I was watching it, and I remember laughing so hard when he looked at the camera and he goes, "What kind of man allows his wife to post thirst traps while calling me daddy?" And I lost my shit, because it was like, what? How can a man cut such a ridiculous promo yet seem so serious while saying it at the same time? He was so good, and that was like sad. But I literally was like, oh, now I see it. Like, I see AEW is going to start pushing him, and that was the promo before his last match. You know, the amazing dog collar match he had, and I, in hindsight, I'm actually really pissed off at myself, because I remember I had some stuff going on in my personal life. And so I was watching that AEW Dynamite, and I was kind of like on my phone and not paying attention to it. And in hindsight, like, if I had known what was going to happen, I would like have tuned in and just drunk that moment in, you know, and really absorbed it. So
it was a good last match to go out on.
It was
great last match to go on. Yeah.
You know, and it's not just, you know, that being his last match is one thing, but it was a fantastic match. Like, it was probably one of my favorite matches from him, at least in AEW. So for that to be his last match, you know.
And I literally told people, I was like, you know, I don't think any of us have felt this way since Eddie Guerrero. And a lot of people are like, oh, you comparing him to Eddie Guerrero? And I'm like, how do you not? Eddie died in his prime. Luke Harper died in his prime. It's not to compare them as superstars and compare their styles and who was better. It's literally like, he died in his prime. He died when, you know, we knew he was up next in line to be challenging for an AEW title, because he had segments holding up the AEW title, just like how Eddie died when he was supposed to win the World Heavyweight title. People have gone on record saying Eddie was supposed to win the World Heavyweight title because Batista was supposed to have surgery. Batista put it off another couple months because of Eddie's passing, right? So again, Luke Harper, I think, would have been hotshotted eventually into a main storyline. I mean, for all we know, hey, maybe they'd have paired his ass up with Sting. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been a very intriguing match. And it's just sad. It's like, I remember thinking, like, it'd be one thing if I was like, oh, his career ended, but it's like his life ended.
You know, he's one of those superstars who are very versatile in the sense where he was a bigger superstar, but you can put him in the ring with Jungle Boy, for example, and they'll put on a banger of a match.
Yeah.
Not a David versus Goliath. It's just a wrestling match. You know what I mean? He was able to just adapt so quickly in any match.
And that's why I didn't understand.
Even in WWE, everything was just he adapted.
Absolutely. But that's why I didn't understand why Vince didn't like him, because I was like, that's a versatile big man. Like, what's there not to like about him?
Vince hates the South.
That's you might be joking, Riddler, but that's literally like
it's legit. He gave JR shit because JR had a Southern accent, and he didn't like JR's Southern accent. It was too Southern. Vince doesn't like the South. So if he looked at Luke Harper as a country bumpkin, he didn't see value in him as a top guy.
He saw him in jeans and a wife beater, and he was like, "Yep, that's the guy. That's who he is. He's the henchman."
How many championships did Hillbilly Jim hold?
I don't know. I don't know
I mean,
anything about
physically,
Hillbilly
he
Jim.
probably held everybody's titles because he probably brought in everyone's bags.
He's a big
But
boy.
that's another story. That's another story for another day. But getting back to Brody Lee again, I hate to bring it, down. But obviously,
Good to talk
this has
about.
been
I
a.
think a lot of people want to hear this.
What's that?
I think this is a really good topic to talk about because I think a lot of people, they don't know what to feel right now.
Yeah.
And you're hearing stories from the different superstars, all all across the world. It's just one of those things where you don't realize it until it's gone, and it's shitty to say, but he was a wrestling treasure.
Yeah, and I actually just recently watched that AEW episode, and JR compared Brody Lee to Owen Hart and Eddie Guerrero in that he's a guy that like nobody has anything bad to say about him. And I think he's also comparable in the sense that like Brody Lee had such a breadth in wrestling. Like he wrestled in WWE, AEW, he wrestled in Japan, he wrestled in the Indies, like up in the Northeast in America. Like he touched so many people's lives, and I think that's like kind of been represented in this past week with like how like everyone, like every wrestler around the world has had like nothing but good things to say about him.
When was the last time you saw any wrestling company retweet another wrestling company or their super?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I think for a week, it was a very nice week in the sense of like, obviously sans one or two people. It was like, there was not a lot of AEW versus WWE type things. It was just a general love for a man that worked in both companies, which was really nice to see. It compelled me. I went on social media and just on a whim, just because of all the stories, just because of how, it much affected me. I was just like, hey, whoever, by the end of Dynamite, I'm going to give somebody a free Brody Lee t-shirt, just buy it out of my own pocket. Cause I just wanted to help this family that had gone through such a tragic loss. And I was like, I see like Fightful and stuff doing all of these live streams with donate and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not at that level, but what can I do? I can at least affect one person and simultaneously, help the family at the same time. So I was really proud of that. And honestly, for me, it was cathartic, you know what I mean? To feel like I helped in some way. But I know my social media didn't show it. I personally did not watch the Brody Lee tribute show live. I almost couldn't. I saw the stuff on social media, but it was still like kind of affected. And believe it or not, I came home midnight after New Year's at my parents' house, and I stayed up till 5 a.m. Watching the AEW Dynamite show. It was the first thing I did this year. Because I almost like, the problem was I think my sisters were over, I had family around. It was like I almost needed to see that episode alone in a dark room by myself, and I didn't want anyone to interrupt that, Brandon.
No, never.
But,
Dark room.
But yeah, so it was, I finally got around to it, and like Joey said, it was just nothing but good things to say about the guy. And I felt so stupid being like affected as a fan, but then I had someone tell me like, no, he had an impact on your life. That's all that matters, no matter who he is. I mean, even Ritter. Ritter literally went in my DMs, not in that way, and was like, "You all right, buddy? Because you've not been active," kind of thing. He noticed. Because truthfully, I was affected. But anyway,
I could tell certain people took it harder than other people. And it affected everyone across the wrestling world. That tribute show was it was beautiful. Like, it was one of the coolest things I have seen in a very long time in wrestling. It was done so well, and it is definitely a highlight as far as the company that AEW said they were going to be, showing who they really are. And I respect the hell out of them for doing that. The way they did it, the very emotional, touching moments, interviews, the way they closed the show with his boots and his son and the title and all of the things they did for this man, because he meant so much to them. It was all very beautiful. And I really have nothing, surprisingly, being me, bad to say.
Surprisingly.
That show, the tribute show, was probably before I jump into that, you know how we said I was a baby and all that stuff before. In my lifetime, at least, I think the most emotional loss or tribute show was Eddie Guerrero. For
Same
me,
here.
for
Same
me.
here.
Absolutely. He had two of them. I mean, that's how bad it was, you know?
And because it was so sudden, just like this, and because he was at the top, you know, of the wrestling world. But this tribute show was probably the most creative, most beautiful. There's no word to describe it, I think, besides, like Ritter said, beautiful. There's no really real way to describe it. The way that they tied in storylines, you know, they kept their aspect of it being a entertainment show, and they brought in, you know, different aspects from the Dark Order. They brought in Eric Rowan or Eric Redbeard, tied it into a storyline. He didn't just come out to pay tribute to his friend. He was part of a storyline to defend the Dark Order, you know? So
Right.
it was very strategic and
Yes.
just done very
Yes.
creatively. And then even at the end, like putting his boots in the ring and just the whole retiring that title and creating a new design. Like there are so many things that, I don't know, we've seen a lot of deaths in the wrestling world before, but the way AEW pivoted and handled themselves, I don't know. I have so much more respect for the company now than I did before, but I don't know. It was just, and for the family to come there just days after and you know, endear all of that, the crowd and the wrestlers chanting their name, and you know, his 8-year-old son standing in the ring putting his boots down to retire them. That to me is the ultimate strength that anybody can have.
Yeah.
And that kid, -1, as they call him, which if no one knows why they call him -1, right? So Brody Lee is the exalted one. So -1 because he wasn't actually old enough to be in the Dark Order. It was just like a little affectionate thing. But -1 because his real name is Brody. His first son is named Brody. You know, I'm without sounding like just weird. It's he was the strongest person I saw on the show because at 8 years old, this kid was smiling and happy. And the only time did he break down was when the camera stopped rolling. The footage that they released exclusively on YouTube, AEW, he finally broke down in like Tony Khan's arms and his mom's arms. He'd been smiling the whole show. And it was almost like he knew the camera was on and like he needed to be like show that his dad was a good person. And I don't know. It was just so much more maturity out of an 8-year-old that should have. I can't believe, you know, I'm 31 years old and I'm like, I don't know if I would have been able to pull that off.
And that was my favorite thing about the whole tribute thing is how much they like put effort into making the family, Amanda, Nolan, and Brody, seem like the part of the AEW family. Like my favorite part of the show was where Brody had the kendo stick and MJF was in a match and he came out to the barricade and fucking Brody hits him with the kendo stick. Like, I don't know, I rewound that like 5 times because this put a big smile on my face just to see how much fun Brody was having in that moment, even for a second, to take him away from the reality. And that was kind of what the whole show was surrounded around. And I think that's why they kind of set a standard, is because they really took the family of Brody and made them feel like they're a part of a bigger family in AEW.
Yeah, it was the best show that I wish had never happened, you know? It's one of those kind of things. It's bittersweet. And I saw, it's no secret that Tony Khan basically signed Brody Lee Jr. to a contract to encourage him. And a lot of people were saying that's too much pressure for a kid. He just lost his dad. And I'm like, how is it pressure? It's encouraging. Yeah. Like it's literally, you can't replace his father, but you can give him hope. Because that kid, all he wanted to do is follow in his father's footsteps. You literally gave him like the incentive of like, do good in school, do what you got to do, and it's waiting here for you. He's got something to live for now that he's missing his father. So again, it's just like I just don't see how.
If he doesn't end up becoming a wrestler, it's like, who cares? Like,
so be it.
There's no pressure to it. It's like if he wants it, he can have it. If he doesn't, then it's fine.
Right. If he says, you know what, this wasn't for me, but I appreciate you and I'll always be part of this family, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they did the show the way they did, years down the road, he's going to be so grateful for involving him the way that they did. Like just giving him those moments to lay down his father's boots and to retire the title he held and really did elevate. I think those are those little details that, and letting him pick his favorite wrestlers to be in the main event.
In a match, yeah.
Those are the things later he's gonna be very grateful for.
How old is Brody Jr.? Does anybody know?
Eight.
So imagine if AEW is still around in 2031. Imagine if he debuts and he has the TNT title. Like how awesome that'll be.
Right, but then Joey wouldn't like it because Joey doesn't like when they bring back old storylines. But anyway,
that's a good point.
Something.
Elias, at least.
Right. So something maybe I know everyone here probably knows it, but people watching right now might not know. AEW Unrestricted that had Brody Lee on his last interview a couple days literally before he passed, I think, or before he went to the hospital, I should say.
Yeah, it was about a month before he passed.
Right. He literally said, his son Brody was sleeping with the TNT title, and he was so proud of his dad sleeping with that title in bed, and it was just a fond memory. So of course they gave him the title. They literally gave him the title that his dad held so that he could go sleep in bed with it again and remember his dad always. So forget like even the fact that it was just an honorable thing to do, like, oh, your dad's the best TNT champion. They literally gave him a piece of his father that is going to be something that he's fond. Every time he sleeps with that title, he's going to remember his dad.
I didn't think about
and that. Right, and that to me is why I cried like a baby when they did it, because
I cried at the 10 bell salute. Just the whole show was just a sob.
Yeah,
they could use a new design for that title, anyways. It's kind of
I know that was. Yeah,
I was gonna say that was the second time wrestling made me cry this year.
When was the first?
Well, I know you wanted to end it on that, but I think we'd be remiss, at least I would, if we didn't talk about the fact that The Undertaker retired in 2020, doing a 2020 retrospective.
Absolutely.
He is my favorite wrestler of all time. He is the reason I fell in love with wrestling. I don't know if you can tell from the shirts and all the shit in the background, but if I stand a wrestler, he would be the closest thing I came to standing a wrestler. And that was actually something that was hard for me, and that I had to take a minute for. Was watching someone that I was born in 87, so he debuted in 90. I was 3 years old. I've watched my entire life the full evolution of The Undertaker lay down his boots and retire.
I always said two things would make me cry in this world because they've been around my whole life, literally. Because I'm born January 19th, 1989. And I said the day The Undertaker retires and the day The Simpsons gets canceled. Because these are literally constants in my life. And I literally grew up watching every stage of The Undertaker and hiding under my bed when I was 3 because of, him. And I was right. Again, it was one of those moments. You can ask Brandon. I didn't invite him over for Survivor Series, not maliciously, but just because I was like, I know what's going to happen and I need this moment. And like, I don't want anybody, I get like that too. Again, a lot of people know I'm like this positive person, but it would have just taken one comment from Brandon and be like, you see this old guy retiring or something, but shut the fuck up. Like literally I would have gotten so offended, and even though in the moment, I'm being sensitive. I'm in my feelings. I'm literally watching a man that has existed in the wrestling world my entire career or my entire life.
He's like a part of your family.
Correct. Exactly. So I'm there with you, Ritter.
To that
I'm
point,
there.
Some things people don't know is traditionally for years, I think I'm 33 now. I think I stopped doing it probably about when I met my wife about 6 years ago. When The Undertaker would come out for WrestleMania, I would get down in The Undertaker's pose for his entire entrance. For the entire half hour, I would sit there in his pose as he came out. I pulled that urn from up here. I brought it upstairs for his retirement. I had a breakdown when he lost to Brock, like a psycho. Same thing with Roman Reigns. I went out in my garage and smashed a baseball bat across my garage floor and broke it. Just completely pissed off, like an insane person. He meant a lot to me. He is the reason I watch wrestling. So that was really, really hard to see happen this year. It needed to happen, and I wish he would have had a crowd for that send-off.
I almost am happy he didn't have a crowd because no other wrestler, the atmosphere of a silent arena, it wouldn't have fit another wrestler. Because having the Undertaker just go out to like an awkward silence, it just fit the mystique. So there again, it's just maybe looking at it with the glass half full. I was almost like, I know, I was like, I know everybody is at home crying, so it's kind of cool that he just gets to drink this in by himself. But like you said, obviously deep down inside, I was like, I wish I was there because we were there when Brock broke the streak. We were there when Undertaker. That's actually, I don't want to say it irritated me, but it kind of did selfishly because I poured tears when at WrestleMania 33 we were there in person, and I was like, I'm here to see the Undertaker retire, and then it didn't happen. And then now selfishly, I'm like, oh, we were supposed to see his last match at WrestleMania 36, and we didn't get to see it.
I've never seen the Undertaker's entrance live. I've seen him one time. It was the first wrestling show I ever went to. It was a SmackDown, and he was the American Badass at the time. So I've actually never gotten to see the Undertaker live do the full entrance.
So one time, and I actually just tweeted about it earlier today. It was Royal Rumble 2006. I was 13 and I got surprised with tickets.
Kurt Angle versus Kurt Angle.
I don't even know. I don't even think he was. He wasn't.
That was after the match.
It was Kurt Angle versus Mark Henry for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Okay, no.
And after Kurt Angle had won, the lights hit. The ring actually exploded. It fell apart, and he came out on like a chariot type thing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I ever saw that, and as a 13-year-old kid, scared me to death.
The first time I saw the Undertaker was Great American Bash 2004 when he faced the Dudley Boys in the main event.
Oh yes,
that was when Paul Bearer got buried in concrete. That was my first wrestling show ever. So I was like, I saw Mordecai, and then I saw that, and I was like, okay, and there's a little Charlie Haas in there,
and you're here.
That's what wrestling is.
Damn.
Yeah, I guess.
Nice. We need to cover Mordecai, Kyle. We need to find something, and you and I should cover Mordecai.
We're gonna do a 5-hour podcast on
Fear me, the career of Mordecai.
What's up, Joey?
I do have to give credit to Ritter, though, explaining how much The Undertaker meant to you.
Thank you.
Because I think a lot of people don't understand that at the end of the day, wrestling, we all know it's fake, right?
What?
But it's art. It's an art, and a lot of people, they love Lady Gaga or they love, some actor or this or that, the other thing.
Lady Gaga. Why was that your...
I'm just
like weird go.
Wait. No, I was gonna say Kyle made fun of me when my go-to for beautiful wrestling was what, the shoulder tackle. What was it?
Oh, I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
And he was like, "What the hell? That's your go-to? Your go-to for good performers, Lady Gaga."
My head had an L, and it just said Lady Gaga.
Yeah, throwing out L's all over the place.
Wrestling is art, and to be able to express yourself like that, and I know you said, "Oh, I'm a psychopath," because that is a natural thing. So. To go through that and be that attached to the character or even to wrestling in general, to me, I think it's freaking cool, just because I love wrestling too, So don't ever feel like you're weird or some shit like that for being that involved.
That's not why you're weird.
Yeah, no,
right. I'm weird for other reasons.
But
Brandon, I think
too. I think that we're here to talk wrestling, and it's fucking awesome.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, Brandon, I think because we didn't actually go up and say it, but you've been with me majority of the times. Tell them how many times we've seen the Undertaker's entrance, because I will definitely add to that.
Did we see the Undertaker's? Yeah, at Manias. At the Manias, at least.
So I mean, I saw his entrance at 24, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 35. No, I didn't see 35 because I wasn't at that Raw.
He's just
I've seen it multiple times in 1998. I promise I'm making a point. Multiple times in 1998 at house shows. I saw a house show of his April 2003 when he came back. Or it's April 2004, sorry, when he came back to that character. There was a house show in Tampa, and I got to see him with the little short hair when he was growing it out with Paul Bearer. And obviously I'm telling you, I've seen The Undertaker's entrance a lot. I've seen it, American Badass in 2002 in Madison Square Garden. There
so the
was
amount
not
of time that you've seen his entrance is probably like half of your lifetime, is what you're saying.
right, correct, because they were very long entrances. But the point I want to make, as much as I have seen The Undertaker's entrance, there was not one time it didn't send chills up my body. It's the most awe-inspiring entrance in professional wrestling. I'm talking about, I saw him at WrestleMania 30 even when he had the stupid mohawk and he didn't even look like The Undertaker properly. And there's chills like when he came out. WrestleMania 20, I will tell you, you want to talk about trauma, right? You want to talk about wrestling being real, okay? The one real thing that we had in professional wrestling, quote unquote, was the streak. That affected me more than his retirement, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because I remember saying like it was something taken away from me so viciously. And we didn't expect it because I give you an example. I was at WrestleMania 28, the Hell in a Cell versus Triple H. When Shawn Michaels hit the super kick and then Triple H hit the pedigree, my heart stopped because I was like, I have come to Miami to see the streak end. That to me was almost more traumatic than the actual streak ending because when the streak actually ended, I sat there and I went, wait, what? Ask Brandon. I literally said, oh, they fucked up. My first reaction.
I had the same thought.
After, like, it didn't seem like it was planned.
Like,
Like,
what?
I was like, they fucked up. Right. And I was like looking at the entrance and I'm like, they're going to have somebody run out and reverse the decision and start this back. Yeah. And the best thing WWE did was not play anything. So they left it hanging. And I remember, again, I could have seen someone die in front of me and not been as shocked. Because when they threw up the 21-1 on the screen, all feeling left my body. Because it was real all of a sudden. Because they put a graphic up to symbolize it. And then Brock's music hit right after that. I was like, oh no.
I think for me, it was Heyman's reaction. Like,
yeah,
it was like, oh my God, oh my, like,
yeah.
But we didn't see that. You know, we didn't really see that as much in the arena. I mean, we saw it. Don't get me wrong, but it's like you literally got tunnel vision on the Undertaker at that point.
Yeah.
Let me give a shout out to my wife because her and I had actually just started dating like right before that happened. Like we officially. So again, my birthday's right around WrestleMania every year. I had a birthday party. After the birthday party, I brought her home. We officially started dating, and then WrestleMania happens, and I have this breakdown, and I'm actually outside smoking cigarettes, just like stressed as shit, and she calls me, and I probably sound like a maniac, just like, you'll never fucking believe this motherfucking Brock Lesnar just fucking ended, and I'm freaking out, and she still married me and bore my child after that.
Oh,
I think
incredible.
Any sane person would have listened to me and been like, fuck this guy, I got to get the fuck out of here. But no, she stuck with me for whatever reason. So I just want to shout out my wife for that, for putting up with that and being there for everything that Roman Reigns, all the bad stuff.
Shout out Mrs. Riddler.
Brandon, likewise, I want to thank you for going through those moments with me and holding me and telling me it's going to be okay and not judging me. And you make me feel safe. You make me feel like a real man. And
I find it, Brandon?
It's been fun.
I'm surprised you were more angry at me because I was kind of excited that Brock won.
Oh, he was so excited. He was so excited.
Ooh, Brandon.
So excited.
Oh my God.
Now I know why Kenny come on my podcast and not this fucking Mike.
I was more excited when Jeff Hardy beat Undertaker in 2008.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We think about that,
I think that's a good note to end on. I think ending on talking about the Undertaker's career is a great way to end 2020. It's funny. I'm glad you brought it up, Ritter, because I definitely meant to talk about the Undertaker. But this show has gone on, believe it or not, about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it feels like it's been an hour. So, I mean, I think that's what happens when you have 4 strong personalities. Yes, I counted correctly. 4 strong personalities. Guess who the odd man out is? Hey, maybe he should put his hand up right now.
Just so you know, on my screen you're pointing at Joey. So
okay. Well, on the live stream, luckily on the live stream, the one that matters,
Brady
I'm
Bunch.
pointing to the correct person. Yeah, we're doing the Brady Bunch. Everyone point. Everyone, Joey, point to your left.
I'm pointing out.
Okay, Ritter, point to your left diagonal. Yes. and then you point up and to your left, Kyle. Do the Scott Hall. There you go. This guy right here. All right. That should be the thumbnail right there. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, this was a clusterfuck of a awesome episode. Everybody tell everybody where you can find them, what handles you're on. I know you're not on Pornhub anymore there, Ritter, but one day maybe if you play your cards right, I'll help you get back on Pornhub.
Another thing 2020 took from us. God damn it. No. You guys can find me at Matt Ritter. That is at MATTRIDDER, no L. Fuck Kyle. Yeah, guys, if you go there, you guys will find link trees to Smackin' Raw, which is the audio version, and to Creation World, which is the banner under which all of our stuff is done, and that'll take you to YouTube for the video versions, Patreon, and our merch store where you guys can go get some dope shirts that I personally either created or had designs done by Vince Delgado, who's a good friend of ours. So go check those out, please. I'd appreciate it.
And I'm going to do Kyle next because he's going to get pissed off if he goes last.
Goddamn right. You goddamn right. Kyle also knows the hardest part of the ring. I should have been smart like these other guys up here who put their podcasts in their little box deal. The Apron Bump podcast, you can find it on all podcast platforms and YouTube as well. Apronbump.com is kind of like a central area to find all those things. Apron Bump on Twitter, Apron Bump on Instagram. Do retro wrestling reviews from all eras, all different promotions. So go check that out and kiss your sister.
Well, you heard it here first. And Joey.
Oh, yeah. So Joey from The Angle Podcast. Can find me on Twitter at The Angle Radio. Go to the website, theangleradio.com. Available on all streaming platforms and YouTube. Do a lot of interviews with a lot of well-known people. Next week is going to be the first interview of the year. I have Tyson Kidd on there. We talk about everything that's going on and how Cesaro should be world champion. So that's a big part of that too.
Perfect.
But like I said, The Angle Radio on all social media. And before we go anywhere else, if whoever has a drink, could we toast to 2021? Because 2020 was shitty year, but in a way it was
something in here.
a really good year in a lot of ways. So you gotta bring in more success and health and all that.
I love it, Joey.
Absolutely.
And I do want to say, before we go off air, because I just realized this will be on other people's platforms too, right? Not just our live YouTube, but if you want to, for some odd reason, you want to listen to us, I don't know why you would want to, but you can find us on social medias at AKFYT Wrestling. So, Kenny, for your thoughts, in other words, AKFYT Wrestling. Find us on YouTube, youtube.com/Kenny for your thoughts. We have shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, a Patreon. We have a co-host that barely stays awake during professional wrestling. We have a lot of things, but definitely not VD. So luckily that is one thing. But to Joey's point, 2020, I feel guilty because 2020 I think was one of the best years of my life. I'm making some moves currently in my professional life, especially. I'll just say it on air, manifest it. I'm about to quit my my shoot job, brother, and go full bore into the mortgage broker life here in Florida. And I'm blessed enough to do so, work for myself, that sort of thing. Scary as hell, but I'm going to do it. But that being said, I feel guilty because 2020 was one of the best years of my life, but I know there are people that have gone through some unspeakable losses, obviously with the temperament of the world in general. I faulted no one for trying to say, I can't wait for 2021, because I know people just wanted hope and wanted to feel like it. This year, it made me go, you know what? If you have a resolution, if you have something that you're looking forward to and you're saying, oh, I'm going to do it on January 1st, I encouraged you, because it was like, I just want because you could literally, I don't know about the rest of you all, but you literally feel the air change on January 1st, as if people were like, okay, something good is coming. And you want to feel that in the world. That December 2020, the air felt so stagnant and felt so like people were hopeless, like Brandon, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so here's to a brighter future. And I hope all of our platforms grow, every single one of us. I'll meet you all at the top. Maybe not Kyle, because he likes to be on the bottom of me. But
guilty as
but honestly, guys, no, it's been awesome. Did I meet all of you in 2020 or 2019?
We
We might have met this year.
2020.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, look at that. Cheers, guys, to meeting each other in 2020.
This is my first
Brandon.
time seeing everybody.
Hey,
Yeah, Brandon, to losing our friendship in 2020.
Yeah.
Wow.
And shout out to your chat, man, because that chat the whole time they were going. So
They're still going.
I know they're still going, man. Elijah, you're the king, bro.
Here's to me working with an actual talent like Joey in 2021, as opposed to the two jobbers like Kenny and Kyle that I had.
I was about to say, I barely recognized Joey's voice without a fucking RV engine revving in the background.
That'll be a different story for a different day.
Yes,
but
very much.
I'm gonna try to have more people on. You know, I don't want to say I want to give people the rub, brother, but you know, we're all in this to help each other.
Rub me.
You know, so
take
definitely
the
want to
rub.
do that. I need to get Brandon out of the way anyway. So I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching. Thank you all for your friendship here, and everyone in the chat. Thank you for your friendship as well. Hit that like button before you go, and have a good rest of your night. Believe it or not, it's Sunday right now, so over here. So,
Who doggy, if you are still listening, I want you come over here. I'm gonna kiss you on the lips because that was a raucous time. No, really, really awesome time. Thank you for Kenny for inviting me on this roundtable discussion of the year of 2020 in wrestling. Really great time with Matt and Joey and of course Kenny's co-host Brandon. Really great time with all those guys. Check all of their podcasts out as well. See the description and all that jazz for all that info. And yeah, you've been here long enough. I'll let you go finish. Is there a goddamn trash truck right outside of my window when I'm doing my outro? Are you fucking kidding me with this shit? God damn it. That's it. I'm gonna go give them a You done? apronbump.com, Twitter @apronbump, Instagram @apron_bump. Lots of great shit coming in 2021, everybody. We have a TNA Destination X 2005 review coming up next week with Frank from the Last Minute Podcast, and lots of Europeans this month as guests. So maybe that'll turn you off. Maybe that'll... Just kidding. All right, I'm done here. Thank you guys once again for listening. I am hard.